Chapter 56:34. The soul subduing, which should be in the sword world. As for its use, according to DeLong, Lin Xian didn't need it for the time being. However, the other party seemed to be very useful. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. Little White, go and find the soul subduing wood for me. Little White had been sleeping and eating spirit fruits in the Four Spirit Valley. At this moment, hearing Lin Xian's voice transmission, he quickly flew towards the depths of the sword world. Not long after, Little White flew out. What a cute little monkey. The Soul Emperor's daughter was also happy when she saw it. The surrounding quasi-emperors were also surprised. Lin Xian actually had a pet. I've never seen it before. The Soul Emperor's daughter originally wanted to take a closer look at the little monkey, but when she saw the soul-subduing wood in Little White's hand, she was stunned. She sucked in a breath of cold air. Could it be the soul-subduing wood? She exclaimed. The surrounding people were also surprised. It can't be. The soul-subduing wood is an extremely rare item. This little monkey actually has it. Little White gave the soul-subduing wood to Lin Xian. Then, with a swoosh, it turned into a white light and disappeared. The little guy liked to stay in the sword world during this period of time. Lin Xian said, "That's right. It's the soul-subduing wood. I'll give it to you. How about you take me out of here safely?" "All right, I'll give it a try. There shouldn't be a problem." The Soul Emperor's daughter nodded. Although the Jade Drop King ahead was very terrifying, the soul-subduing wood was extremely useful to him. He wanted it. When the others heard this, they were stunned. What? The Soul Emperor's daughter was willing to help. They were anxious. "Lin Gongzi, please take me with you." "Lin Gongzi, we're together. You can't leave us behind." The quasi-emperors were very anxious. The Blood Kaiser came to Lin Xian's side and said, "From now on, I will respect the young master. If the young master has any orders, I will do anything." He was an old fox. He knew that ordinary words wouldn't be able to move the other party. He had to pay a price. The surrounding people were shocked. Damn it, they didn't expect the blood ancestor to lower his head like this. Could it be that he no longer wanted the dignity of a quasi-emperor? Lin Xian looked at Kaiser Blood and said, "Thank you. I can take you away." "Thank you, young master." Kaiser Blood was overjoyed. He was so pleased with himself that he forgot about the quasi-emperors around him and laughed coldly. Between face and life, which was more important? When the surrounding people heard this, their souls trembled. There was no way they would be able to defeat Bai Luo if they were to stay here, especially when the Moon Palace was so terrifying. Aside from the Jade Drop King, there should be other unknown dangers lurking around. If they couldn't get out, they would definitely die. Therefore, these people also said that from now on, they would follow young master's lead. "We are willing to respect young master." Voices rang out one after another. Helpless, these quasi-emperors could only lower their heads. "Oh, really?" Lin Xian narrowed his eyes as well. The corners of his lips curled up, although he knew that these quasi-emperors did not sincerely submit to him. So what? As long as the other party stayed by their side, he would convince them sooner or later, because his trump cards were not limited to these. He said, "Then I ask the daughter of the Soul Emperor to lead us away." "All right, I'll give it a try." "There are so many of you, hurry up," the daughter of the Soul Emperor said. Lin Xian said, "Everyone, follow me." The other quasi-emperors followed him and retreated. At this time, Bai Luo moved again. His hollow eyes turned around and stared at the crowd. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. It was as if they were being stared at by an ancient demon god. The surrounding void continued to shatter as an oppressive aura spread out in all directions. Lin Xian took a deep breath and formed the black vortex again to resist. At the same time, the daughter of the Soul Emperor also moved. He waved his hand and put away the soul-calming wood. Buzz. He formed a seal with his palm again. A terrifying and mysterious aura appeared around him as well. Then, a bead appeared in his hand. It was called a soul bead. As soon as it appeared, a terrifying soul energy swept out in all directions. The other quasi-emperors felt their scalps go numb. As expected of the daughter of the Soul Emperor, the thing in her hand was definitely left behind by the Soul Emperor. After the soul bead appeared, a mysterious voice sounded. It was bleak and ancient, as if it came from the ancient times. The Bailuo bell in front of them shook incessantly. 8-Crown King roared at the sky. He let out a shrill cry, as if he had gone mad. It was as if he had gone mad. The daughter of the Soul Emperor said, "Hurry up and leave. I can't hold on for much longer." Lin Xian and the others didn't dare to stay. They immediately flew away. They were extremely fast. In an instant, they turned into lightning and disappeared. After that, the daughter of the Soul Emperor also tore open the void and disappeared. Once they were gone, the king of Jade Fall's eyes began to glow with a strange green light. He roared at the sky, and the Bailuo bell erupted. Raging waves slammed against the shore. The shrill sound caused the 9 heavens and 10 earths to shatter. Countless black holes appeared in the surrounding void. Under this sound, even a quasi-emperor would undoubtedly die. On the other side, although Lin Xian and the others had left, they still felt the terrifying sound behind them. They sucked in a breath of cold air. This time, it was all thanks to the daughter of the Soul Emperor. Otherwise, they would have died. Even Lin Xian was surprised. As expected of 8-Crown King, he was indeed strong. Although there was something wrong with Bailuo's condition, he was still undefeatable. The voice of the daughter of the Soul Emperor drifted over. "Thank you for the soul-subduing wood." He didn't follow the others. He left alone. Lin Xian nodded. The surrounding people were surprised. The daughter of the Soul Emperor was indeed extraordinary. At the same time, they were somewhat disappointed. If she had been with them, they would have been much safer. Kaiser Blood came to Lin Xian's side. "Lin Gongzi, let's go." The other quasi-emperors also turned around. Although the daughter of the Soul Emperor wasn't with them, Lin Xian was. It was also much safer. They also said, "Lin Gongzi, we are willing to follow you." The group set off again. In fact, they weren't the only ones in danger. The other places were also in danger. Some quasi-emperors joined forces to resist, but they still couldn't stop it. Many people had died. Because of this, the Double Crown Kings and Triple Crown Kings were even more miserable. They couldn't resist at all. At this moment, an extremely terrifying might of the extreme Tao erupted between heaven and earth, vast and desolate. Many people looked up. It was an extreme Tao weapon. Did a heavenly emperor clan enter? Who was it? Lin Xian also sensed it. He looked at the void mirror in the distance. The Gu clan had also entered. He didn't know what kind of danger they encountered, but they actually activated the void mirror. On the other side, a man in cotton clothes walked through the passageway. There was no one around. A cold wind blew, making one's hair stand on end. It was Yao Guang. Yao Guang's face was cold. He said, "Damned old man, 9 firmaments. Why is this place so dangerous? Are you trying to trick me?" 9 firmaments also said, "How would I know? This moon palace was previously sealed. This should be the first time it's been opened. Who knew that it would be so dangerous? Hurry up and find a way out." 9 firmaments was a quasi-emperor, but the current situation exceeded his understanding. There were so many terrifying existences around. He even saw 8-Crown King. Such a person was here, his eyes empty, like a puppet. Just who was behind the moon palace? It was probably a heavenly emperor. He didn't dare to be impudent here. Chapter 5635. Yao Guang said, as he went to look at the other corpses, there were so many experts who had fallen here. If he could obtain some, His strength would increase by leaps and bounds. He might even break through to become a quasi-emperor. However, the situation was beyond his expectations. Those who had fallen were all enveloped by the yellow spring water. Yao Guang roared, scram. He charged towards the yellow spring water. A terrifying black vortex swallowed the heavens and the earth. He executed the extremely terrifying heaven-devouring demonic art. He wanted to snatch back those quasi-emperor corpses. However, countless white bone claws appeared in the yellow spring water and charged towards him. There was even a quasi-emperor's head that let out a mournful roar. It was as if the gates of hell had been opened. Yao Guang fought for a while and was actually sent flying. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood. He was injured. Damn it, he could only give up on these quasi-emperor corpses. Damn it, he couldn't get any benefits at all. He gritted his teeth. On the other side, the beautiful Shen Jingqiu was still walking. Wherever she passed, she actually avoided those mysterious and terrifying existences. She kept walking towards the depths of the Moon Palace. Finally, she arrived in front of an ancient stone door. The stone door emitted a mysterious aura. An ancient great Tao flickered on it. Shen Jingqiu stood there for a long time. Finally, she stretched out her jade-like hand and gently pushed forward. A rumbling sound rang out, and the stone door kept shaking. It finally opened, and Shen Jingqiu walked inside. After she walked in, the stone door closed again, as if it had never been opened. No one knew the entire process. However, a sigh came from the depths of the Moon Palace. It disappeared in an instant, making people think that it was an illusion. On the other side of the Moon Palace, there was a mysterious sea. There was a statue in the sea that stood there like a supreme goddess. At the same time, a group of people walked over from the mysterious ocean. The leader was a woman like the Queen of the Nine Heavens. Her body was sealed by ice crystals. It was the Dragon Queen. She brought the people of the 10,000 dragon court here, and the 10,000 dragons picture surrounded her body. The Dragon Queen said in a deep voice, "I finally found you. How is it? Do you want to join forces? You're actually still alive." In the mysterious sea ahead, the statue of the goddess suddenly let out a deep voice. It was as if it had crossed space and time. At the same time, the world shook as a powerful pressure swept out. The people from the 10,000 Dragon Dynasty felt their scalps go numb. What kind of existence was in front of them? If it weren't for the Dragon Queen, they probably wouldn't have been able to reach it in their lifetime. The seventh dragon general beside him also looked like he was facing a great enemy. Two mysterious and terrifying women began to negotiate here. Lin Xian did not know that Shen Jingqiu had entered, nor did he know that the Dragon Queen had entered. He could only continue walking forward. Their path of retreat had been sealed. If they wanted to leave, they could only continue to explore. There were many passageways in the surroundings that led to many places. Lin Xian stood there and looked around. He said, "Go investigate in different directions and report back after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." The surrounding quasi-emperors began to move. Unknowingly, they had already begun to respect Lin Xian as their leader, because Lin Xian was really too calm. Such a scene scared these quasi-emperors out of their wits. They could only listen to this youth. These quasi-emperors began to search their surroundings. Even Kaiser Blood had left for the moment. For a moment, only Lin Xian was left. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He waited. At this moment, footsteps sounded behind him. Lin Xian turned his head to look. He saw 3 figures behind him. 2 of them were quasi-emperors, and 1 was a quadruple crown king. The quadruple crown king was a youth. It seemed that they were also from the chosen immortal tribe. The 3 people behind him were also surprised when they saw Lin Xian. Someone had actually arrived here before them? When they saw that Lin Xian was only a quadruple champion, and that he was by himself, they all laughed. Humph, it's actually a youth. It's really surprising that he could come here. I think he's just lucky. That's good. We're lacking someone to scout the way. Let this lucky kid scout the way for us. The two quasi-emperors sneered. The quadruple crown king also walked out and said, "Kid, listen to us, and we'll let you live. Otherwise, you'll die without a burial place." They had extremely terrifying auras. They were from the giant sea race. With just you two? Lin Xian snorted coldly. It's best if you submit and apologize. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Two quasi-emperors want to threaten me? One had to know that Lin Xian was not alone now. A group of quasi-emperors had gathered around him. However, those people had gone to scout the way and had not returned. Once they returned, they would completely outnumber the other party. These two quasi-emperors were not qualified to be arrogant in front of him. The two quasi-emperors did not know that. The youth was also angry. "Are you courting death? How dare you be disrespectful to my ancestor? Looks like I have to teach you a lesson." He slapped out with his palm. His palm turned into an abyssal sea, bringing with it a heavy pressure as it pressed down on the ground. He wanted to suppress Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered. There was a trace of biting cold light in his eyes. He waved his hand. The true water sword technique flew over and turned into a true water dragon. It directly bound the deep sea that filled the sky. The quadruple crown king's body shook. The quasi-emperor behind him was also surprised. "True water sword technique. You're from the Shuiyun tribe." "Humph," the other quasi-emperor sneered. "Is the Shuiyun tribe's quasi-emperor here? If not, then you can prepare to die. Boy, obediently scout the way and hand over the true water sword technique. I can give you a chance to live." Lin Xian was also angry. "Get lost. Good boy, you have guts. Disciple, suppress him," a quasi-emperor said. The man in front also walked out. He said, "Boy, I didn't expect you to be from the Shuiyun tribe. Well, let's see whose water laws are more powerful." He roared angrily, and an endless sea appeared behind him. The momentum was vast and majestic, as if it was going to suppress the 9 heavens. He rushed over and fought with Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian threw out a punch. The golden sun pierced through the endless sea. The quadruple crown king vomited blood and flew backward. Half of his body was split open. He could not withstand the power of the divine fire at all. Damn it, how was this possible? He originally thought that he would definitely have the upper hand in a battle of the same level, but now the other party could easily injure him. The gap was really too big. A mere ant dares to compete with me? Ridiculous. Lin Xian saw that the other party could not even block a punch of his, and immediately sneered. "Master, avenge me." The young disciple gritted his teeth. The quasi-emperor behind was also angry. He was called the deep-sea quasi-emperor. His face darkened. "Young man, you have some strength. I didn't expect a genius like you to appear in the Shuiyun tribe. However, what I like to do the most is to kill geniuses." Chapter 5636. The deep-sea quasi-emperor walked out and sneered. Once he attacked, the other party would definitely die. The difference between a quasi-emperor and a quadruple crown king was like heaven and earth. Just as he was about to attack, the sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. The deep-sea quasi-emperor turned around and saw a quasi-emperor walking out. It was an old woman with white hair and holding a walking stick. She also had the aura of a quasi-emperor. It was Quasi-Emperor Mandela. The deep-sea quasi-emperor was stunned when he saw her aura. He said, "You're here too?" When Quasi-Emperor Mandela saw the other party, she nodded slightly. Then she ignored him. This made the deep-sea quasi-emperor frown. What was the other party's purpose? He had to be cautious. Quasi-Emperor Mandela walked past the other party and came in front of Lin Xian. Then she cupped her fists and said, "Young master, I've already checked that direction. It doesn't seem to be the way out." What? Seeing this scene, the three quasi-emperors from the giant Sea clan were stunned. What kind of joke was this? Quasi-Emperor Mandela, a quasi-emperor. She actually bowed to a young man. Damn it, what was going on? What was the background of this young man? Did he have a high status in the Mandela clan? He was stunned. Just as he was about to ask, the sound of something breaking through the air came from another direction. Kaiser blood. This surprised the two quasi-emperors. He was also a terrifying quasi-emperor. After Kaiser blood arrived, he came to Lin Xian's side. He also cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Young master, it doesn't seem to be the way out." The two quasi-emperors from the Deep Sea clan were stunned again. Even a quasi-emperor had to be respectful to him? Damn it, what the hell is going on? Lin Xian said, "You two have worked hard, but if you came a little later, I'm afraid someone would have suppressed me." Kaiser blood was instantly angry. Who dared to be disrespectful to young master? Quasi-Emperor Mandela also said, "Deep Sea clan, how dare you go against Lin Gongzi?" The Deep Sea quasi-emperor said, "Mandela, who is he? Why are you so respectful to him?" "Are you crazy?" Mandela coldly snorted. "Lin Gongzi's strength is not something you can imagine. You dare to offend Lin Gongzi? Quickly apologize." Kaiser blood said, "Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." Humph. So he has two quasi-emperors backing him up. But so what? We are also two quasi-emperors. The giant Sea tribe still refused to lower their heads. Is that so? Do you really think that there are only two quasi-emperors? Lin Xian smiled. What do you mean? The Deep Sea quasi-emperor frowned. Was there something else? Just then, voices came from all directions, followed by the arrival of three more quasi-emperors, reporting to Lin Gongzi. "We didn't find out anything." The people of the Deep Sea race were completely stunned. Another three quasi-emperors bowed their heads to Lin Xian, with the five quasi-emperors by the other party's side. The Deep Sea quasi-emperor immediately turned and fled. "You want to leave?" Quasi-Emperor Mandela had been waiting for the other party. With a wave of her hand, endless Mandela flowers covered the sky, forming a chain that swept towards the other party. Kaiser blood also roared angrily and struck out with his blood-colored long saber. The three quasi-emperors were also stunned. After they inquired about the situation, their faces instantly darkened. They actually dared to attack Lin Gongzi. The three quasi-emperors directly surrounded the people of the Deep Sea race. The people of the Deep Sea race were about to cry. The young man with 4 crowns was so scared that his scalp went numb. The other party was about the same age as him and had the same cultivation. But the other party could command so many quasi-emperors. Damn it, what the hell is going on? Lin Xian walked over with his hands behind his back and looked at the other party. "You were very arrogant before." With a plop, the young man with 4 crowns knelt on the ground. "Young master, please spare my life. I was blind and offended you. Please have mercy." Behind him, the Deep Sea quasi-emperor's face was also ugly. His disciple actually knelt in front of someone else. This made him lose face. But now he could no longer care about these things because he also felt that his life was in danger. 5 against 2. If they really fought, they would end up in a terrible state. Therefore, he said, "It's a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. We didn't know the identity of the young master. I apologize here." Lin Xian snorted coldly. "Is that so? If I didn't have these quasi-emperors by my side, would I have been suppressed?" As soon as he finished speaking, he struck out with his palm and directly smashed the young man with 4 crowns into pieces. The Deep Sea quasi-emperor's pupils constricted. Damn it, how dare the other party attack his disciple? The young man with 4 crowns was extremely miserable. "Master, save me." The deep-sea quasi-emperor's face also darkened. Young master, although you are strong, we are not weak. However, my deep-sea clan is not to be trifled with. I have already apologized. What else do you want? If it's not enough, kneel down and apologize. Lin Xian said indifferently. The moment he spoke, his voice sounded like thunder in the other party's ears. Everyone was shocked. The deep-sea quasi-emperor was even more furious. Don't go too far. He suddenly attacked and caught the other party off guard. If he could suppress the other party, then he would be qualified to leave. How dare you? Kaiser Blood roared and wanted to attack again, but he was a step too late. Ha ha, kid, go to hell. The deep-sea quasi-emperor seemed to have gone crazy. Lin Xian snorted coldly, and an extremely terrifying light appeared in his eyes. In the next moment, he made a strong move. He slashed out with his sword and turned it into a giant dragon. It directly sent the deep-sea quasi-emperor flying. There was a scream, and the void shattered. The deep-sea quasi-emperor's bones broke, and his entire body was split in half. He screamed miserably. The other quasi-emperors also gasped. Lin Xian's strength was so terrifying. Previously, they followed Lin Xian because they were forced to do so. After leaving the Moon Palace, they probably wouldn't care about Lin Xian at all, because in their opinion, Lin Xian only had some mysterious trump cards. For example, he had the soul-subduing wood, or he could curry favor with the Soul Emperor's daughter. Once they left, these methods would be useless. But now, their thoughts had completely changed because Lin Xian's strength was enough to injure a quasi-emperor. This shocked them. Lin Xian's strength was not weaker than theirs. The quadruple crown king was also terrified. His master was easily defeated by Lin Xian. He actually offended such a person before, and he was so scared that he fainted. Damn it. How is this possible? Who are you? The deep-sea quasi-emperor roared crazily. He was also dumbfounded. Lin Xian sneered. A mere quadruple crown king is qualified to be arrogant in front of me? You really don't know what death is. If you had knelt down and begged for mercy, I might have spared your life. But you dared to sneak attack me and want to kill me, then I'm sorry. You can go to hell and repent. A cold killing intent appeared in Lin Xian's eyes. You dare to look down on me? The deep-sea quasi-emperor roared. However, Lin Xian waved his hand. Didn't you guys say that you want to respect me? It's time for you to show your strength. These words were directed at Kaiser Blood Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others. Chapter 56:37. The 5 quasi-emperors were also stunned, their gazes uncertain. Kaiser Blood snorted coldly and took the initiative to attack. He had been chased by Lin Xian before. Furthermore, he had seen Lin Xian's cultivation method. He knew that if he wanted to survive in the Moon Palace, he had to rely on Lin Xian. As an old fox, he was the first to submit. He instantly charged out. Quasi-Emperor Mandela also attacked. When the other 3 quasi-emperors saw this, they sighed and attacked as well. The 5 quasi-emperors attacked the deep-sea quasi-emperor together. The deep-sea quasi-emperor was scared out of his wits. Damn it, my old friend attacked. 2 quasi-emperors came from the giant sea race. Aside from him, there was another quasi-emperor called Quasi-Emperor Ice Snake. Seeing this scene, he could only smile bitterly. Even if he attacked, he would not be able to defeat them. He could only sigh. Now, he chose to protect himself. 5 against 1. Although the deep-sea quasi-emperor was extremely terrifying, he could send out a huge sea that churned the 9 heavens. In the end, he still could not escape death, his body and soul destroyed. The 5 quasi-emperors had cold expressions, their killing cheese-shocking. They turned around and looked at Lin Xian. A strong force swept out. A black whirlpool suddenly appeared on Lin Xian's body, and an extreme Dao aura appeared. At the same time, he snorted coldly and released his Rinnegan. The 5 quasi-emperors trembled. In that instant, after they killed the quasi-emperor, they even felt that they could suppress Lin Xian. Even they had the same thought in their minds. However, when Lin Xian's extreme Dao aura appeared, they immediately came to their senses. The killing qi on the five's bodies disappeared. They came before Lin Xian and said respectfully, "Young master, the enemy has been eliminated. There is one more. Do you want to attack?" The five of them turned their heads to look at the ice snake. Quasi-Emperor Ice Snake was so frightened that his scalp went numb. He bowed deeply, almost burying his head in the ground. He said, "Young master, please spare me. I am willing to submit." Right after Xiao Chen spoke, he killed the unconscious four-crown monarch with one strike. This is the deep-sea quasi-emperor's disciple. He offended young master, so I killed him for young master. As for my life, young master, please decide. He acted as if Lin Xian was his superior. He could tell that Lin Xian was too mysterious and terrifying. He was no match for the five great boundary emperors. A wise man submits to circumstances. You're very sensible. Lin Xian also laughed. He sent a voice transmission to Little White, asking it to bring over a fruit. The sword world had also recovered and had grown some fruits. Not every kind of fruit could increase one's strength. There were poisonous fruits and other effects. For instance, the soul-calming wood. Lin Xian didn't know what it was used for, so he had given it to the Soul Emperor's daughter. This time, he took out a spirit-locking fruit. Given his soul technique, it was impossible for him to completely control a quasi-emperor. However, if one consumed this fruit, even a quasi-emperor would become his puppet. Little White came out and handed the fruit to Lin Xian. Lin Xian waved his hand and said, "Eat it, and I'll spare your life." What was that? The surrounding quasi-emperors were also surprised. They felt a mysterious aura from the spirit fruit. At the same time, they were puzzled. Lin Xian actually had so many treasures on him. The dragon snake quasi-emperor's eyelids twitched wildly. He naturally knew that this was definitely not a treasure. It could be poison or something like that. However, the situation forced him to do so in order to save his life. He could only swallow it. The moment he swallowed it, his soul trembled. He felt as if his soul was locked by chains. Not good. He knew that he had fallen into a trap. This thing could control his soul. However, there was nothing she could do. It was better than death. The one who had locked the other party's soul, the ice snake quasi-emperor, had completely become a puppet. If Lin Xian wanted her to live, she would live. If he wanted her to die, she would die. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and prostrated himself. "Greetings, young master." This scene stunned the surrounding quasi-emperors. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others all gasped. Even Kaiser Blood's face was pale. Although they had already respected Lin Xian, they only bowed. If he asked them to kneel, they would rather die than kneel. Quasi-emperors still had their dignity and face. But now, this ice snake quasi-emperor seemed to have no dignity at all. Was it because of that fruit? Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others gasped. If Lin Xian had let them eat that fruit, they would probably have the same ending. They would become puppets. Thinking of this, when they looked at Lin Xian, their gazes turned into a trace of horror. This young man's methods were too strange, completely beyond their imagination. Lin Xian saw their gazes, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He knew that he had intimidated these quasi-emperors. He stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly, "From now on, respect me as if I'm a god. Greetings, young master." The 5 quasi-emperors bowed respectfully again. This time, their hearts were filled with awe and shock. They did not dare to have any other thoughts. "Let's go. Let's continue." Lin Xian continued on his journey. This time, there was another quasi-emperor. Beside him, the 6 quasi-emperors were preparing to lead the way. They were very powerful. Along the way, many figures finally appeared in front of him. These people gathered together and stood there without moving. Lin Xian frowned. He also sensed the aura of an extreme Dao. An extreme Dao weapon had appeared. Was it someone from the Emperor race? When they arrived, they realized that it was not the case. There were a few fragments in front of them that were scattered among the palaces and pavilions. Those fragments were emitting an extreme Dao aura, fragments of an extreme Dao weapon. Kaiser Blood and the others exclaimed. Their eyes were red. Although they were quasi-emperors from the chosen immortal race, they did not have an extreme Dao weapon. Only a great emperor's weapon could be called an extreme Dao weapon. For example, the blue sky bell from before was terrifying, but it was not an extreme Dao weapon. The power of an extreme Dao weapon was too terrifying and carried the might of an extreme Dao. But now, an extreme Dao weapon had actually shattered. What kind of battle had happened? The experts in the deity ground were also shocked. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. It was not the first time he had seen an extreme Dao weapon shattering. Previously, at the bottom of the Demon Sea, he had found a fragment of an extreme Dao weapon. Back then, the Demon Emperor and the green-robed Great Emperor fought, and the weapon shattered. But this time, which Great Emperor would it be? The Moon Palace was indeed mysterious. What had happened here? Lin Xian asked a woman next to him. The woman was dressed in a phoenix robe, and her expression was cold. She was holding a treasure bottle in her hand. Her name was Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu. At this moment, she snorted coldly. How dare a puny king of 4 crowns be so rude to her? However, at this moment, the 6 quasi-emperors behind Lin Xian walked out together. They stared at her with an unfriendly expression, which made Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's expression change. Damn it, what was going on? This kid had 6 quasi-emperors with him. She immediately smiled. How should I address this young man? Cut the crap. Lin Gongzi is asking you a question. Tell me what happened here. Kaiser Blood shouted coldly. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu frowned. Damn it, when had he been scolded? However, the other party's lineup was a little too strong. Therefore, he could only sigh and tell her what had happened. Chapter 5638. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu explained what had happened earlier. It turned out that these people had engaged in a fight when they arrived. They had shaken off the surrounding ruins. A crack appeared, the ruins shattered, and the fragments of these supreme weapons appeared from within. Immediately, the surrounding experts fought over the fragments frantically. In the end, a few of them were instantly pierced through. 2 of them had even died. The others also spat out mouthfuls of blood and retreated. This sent chills down the spine of Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu and the others. They did not dare to act rashly and were about to discuss if there was a feasible solution. At this moment, Lin Xian and the others arrived. It seemed that they were not too late. Kaiser Blood and the others were also delighted. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Do you think it's so easy to obtain an emperor weapon? Even a fragment of an emperor weapon was not something a quasi-emperor could obtain. Lin Xian was right. He had once obtained a fragment of an emperor weapon, but that was with the heaven-devouring jar. The others did not have a chance at all. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the other side after hearing this. They were not willing to accept this. It's fine. If you are not willing to accept this, you can try it, Xian said. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others' eyes lit up. Thank you, young master. They now respected Lin Xian. If Lin Xian did not say anything, they would not have dared to act rashly. However, now that Lin Xian had agreed, how could they miss out on this opportunity? The 6 quasi-emperors walked forward together. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart, causing the scalps of the surrounding people to go numb. This lineup was too powerful. Were the 6 quasi-emperors going to attack together? Countless people looked over. Kaiser Blood and the others roared angrily and jointly struck out their laws, forming a large net. It shrouded the front. They were not greedy and prepared to seize a fragment of the ground ice first. The ground ice fragment in front was red, as if it was stained with blood. After sensing an attack, it immediately shook violently. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions. Everyone was pushed back by this force. Some people directly vomited blood. The 6 quasi-emperors' faces also changed. They felt a terrifying, murderous aura surging toward them. Not good. Attack with all your might. These people shouted angrily and attacked again. All kinds of immortal techniques covered the sky and covered the earth as they attacked forward. However, the Imperial weapon fragment was even more terrifying. The aura it emitted was terrifying. Finally, it pierced through the celestial spells that filled the sky and charged toward the 6 people. The 6 of them were all blasted back. Some of their bodies were shattered, while others were pierced through by the extreme power. Everyone was injured. It can't be, right? Even with 6 great quasi-emperors working together, they still couldn't do anything? Damn it. Is this the power of an extreme weapon? When the surrounding people saw this, their faces were filled with despair. Only Lin Xian had a cold smile on his face. This group of people was really stupid. The 6 quasi-emperors stood up and began to suppress their injuries. They discussed in low voices for a while. Then he shook his head and gave up. He came to Lin Xian's side. "Young master, if we can't do it, do you have a solution?" Kaiser Blood asked. Yes, they all raised their heads and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian had many mysterious trump cards. He might have a way. Let me take a look. Lin Xian walked forward. The surrounding people were also surprised. Is someone going to attack again? However, when they saw Lin Xian's cultivation, they all sneered. How dare a sacred lord be so arrogant? Even if he was the quadruple crown king, he was no match for a quasi-emperor. 6 great quasi-emperors working together couldn't do anything. Does he have a way? These people didn't believe it, and they even sneered. However, Kaiser Blood and the others were looking forward to it. They wondered what this kid could do. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and probed. He wanted to know which great emperor's weapon fragment it belonged to. He felt an extremely terrifying, murderous aura from it. He had never heard of these great emperors. It seemed that he didn't know who they were. At this moment, the fragments of the extreme weapon seemed to have sensed Lin Xian's aura. Immediately, they rose into the air and trembled violently. The blood-red light on it was monstrous, as if it could tear the entire universe apart. Everyone felt a huge pressure. Even Lin Xian's pupils constricted. Damn it, what's going on? He instantly threw out the sky-devouring vortex. Boom, boom. A violent explosion sounded, and a blood-red light shot toward the sky-devouring vortex. It set off an earth-shattering vibration. Lin Xian's blood was also boiling. This was because, after the first one, the next few fragments were the same. The surrounding people were going crazy. What did this kid do? How could he provoke an extreme weapon? What made them even more surprised was that Lin Xian was still alive. He actually managed to block it. Is he more terrifying than the 6 great quasi-emperors? Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu gasped. When she saw Lin Xian earlier, she didn't care about him at all. When she saw him earlier, she didn't care about him at all. But now, she was really shocked. This person was indeed more powerful than the 6 great quasi-emperors. The 6 great quasi-emperors were also overjoyed. This seemed to be the aura of an extreme weapon. Could it be that he really had an extreme weapon on him? These people were shocked. Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. This extreme-grade weapon was hostile to him. He shouted coldly and pushed his palm. The black, sky-devouring crown flew out. It collided with the extreme weapon fragment. With a loud clang, a terrifying sound was heard. The sky and the earth were torn apart. This was originally a broken ruin. After the extreme weapon attack, the entire ruin cracked again. A crack appeared. Endless gravel fell down. Everyone was also shocked. They also looked down. Even the extreme Dao fragments that had attacked Lin Xian were sent flying downwards. Lin Xian lowered his head and took a look. Then he gasped, "Kaiser blood," and the others were also stunned. That was his quasi-emperor, who had an extremely terrifying aura. He had killed countless experts along the way. However, in front of such a scene, he was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground. There was a large hall below. It was originally hidden, but because of the collision of extreme weapons, it appeared in the world. The hall was covered with white bones. One of the walls was even made of countless white bones and skulls. Those skulls were all quasi-emperor skulls. Each of them carried the power of the immortal chi fragments. Although tens of thousands of years had passed, and that power had long disappeared, there were still some remnants of aura. The surrounding people were shocked when they sensed it. So many quasi-emperors had died. Moreover, they were killed by force, and their skulls were piled up here. Who was it? Could it be that the owner of this hall was more powerful than a quasi-emperor? Then there was only one possibility. This was the hall of a great emperor. Only such an existence would be able to do such a thing. Lin Xian was also shocked. This was much more terrifying than the quasi-emperor skulls in the Yellow Spring. After all, there were at least hundreds of quasi-emperors here. This was really a killing god. Suddenly, he was stunned because he found another bone. Chapter 56:39. The white bone hall below, except for the wall, was made of the heads of quasi-emperors. The other places were also filled with white bones. Among them, there was an ancient altar. On the altar, there was a hand bone. That bone, it was crystal clear and blue in color. The cold air on it was extremely terrifying. After countless years, the power of the laws had been wiped out. However, when one looked at it, one's soul seemed to be frozen. Even Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu exclaimed in surprise. What a terrifying power of ice! A glimmer of light shone in his eyes because he also cultivated the power of ice. If he obtained it, he might be able to break through again. Thinking of this, he could not wait to make a move. He waved his hand. It turned into a crescent moon and descended from the sky, enveloping the blue hand bone. The blue bone arm swayed, and a chill covered the sky and covered the earth. The crescent moon was sealed in ice. An ice array also appeared on Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's palm. Her body stiffened. She hurriedly retreated and shattered the ice. Her face was pale, and she spat out blood. Damn it! It was so terrifying. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's face turned ugly. Then she sighed. It seemed that she was not qualified to obtain it. The other quasi-emperors also wanted to try, but when they saw what happened to Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu, they hesitated. Lin Xian smiled. If you don't have the ability, don't snatch such a great opportunity, because you don't deserve it. What did you say? Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was furious. However, she was afraid of the weapon in Lin Xian's hand and did not dare to make a move. Take it if you have the guts. She snorted coldly. Lin Xian, however, waved his hand and grabbed downwards. A black vortex appeared on his palm, enveloping the blue hand bone. The blue hand bone released an endless amount of ice, freezing everything in its path. However, in front of the sky-devouring jar, it was still swallowed. Although it was terrifying, it had been tempered for too many years and did not have much power left. The blue hand bone was swallowed, which shocked countless people. Lin Xian was delighted because DeLong told him that this blue hand bone was the bone of a supreme. The bone of a supreme. Lin Xian was even more surprised by the power it carried. He was incomparably familiar with it. This was the power of the Nine Yin. They were the bones of the Nine Yin body. Xue Qi cultivated this kind of physique, and he was very familiar with it. More importantly, he had the nine-yang body, so he was able to sense it immediately. Had the nine-yin divine physique been cultivated to the level of a human sovereign, this was truly beyond his expectations. Xiao Qun wondered if he would have the chance to see the nine-yang body of a human sovereign. He put away the blue hand bone and planned to give it to Xueqi when he met her. Xueqi might be able to rely on this blue hand bone to make a breakthrough and become a quasi-emperor. Damn it, was it taken away? Quasi-emperor Lung Yu's expression turned ugly. The others also cried out in surprise. This brat had an extremely powerful weapon in his hands, which made them incomparably envious. Quasi-emperor Lung Yu said, "What's there to be arrogant about? Aren't you just relying on your weapon? Without that weapon, you would be nothing more than an ant in my eyes." "Oh, really?" Lin Xian also laughed. "Do you really think that you can contend against me without a weapon? Isn't this nonsense?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu said, "You are, at most, a quadruple crown king. What qualifications do you have to challenge a quasi-emperor?" Lin Xian shook his head. "Ignorant woman. What did you say?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was furious. She stretched out her hand. A crescent moon spun continuously as it charged forward. The entire void shook again. The surrounding people also cried out in surprise. They saw that Lin Xian did not create a black vortex at all. Was he going to use his own strength to contend against a quasi-emperor? What a joke. This brat would die miserably. Kaiser blood. And the others did not care. They even sneered. When they looked at Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu, there was a trace of pity in their eyes. Only those who had truly fought with Lin Xian knew how terrifying he was. Lin Xian did not use the heaven-swallowing jar. Instead, he threw out a punch. Boundless Nine Suns divine fire flickered on his fist and turned into a sun. The terrifying divine fire, vast and mighty between heaven and earth, collided with Lung Yu's moon. An earth-shattering sound rang out, and heaven and earth kept shaking. The power of ice and fire exploded together. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was originally disdainful. Lung Yu thought that Yi Qingyu's flame would be instantly frozen. However, when he saw the divine fire, his expression changed. She felt that the power of the moon she struck out seemed to have melted. How was this possible? What kind of flame was this? While she was in a daze, the moon shattered, and the punch landed directly on her body. She was sent flying. Her body was charred black, and cracks appeared. Blood dripped from the corner of her mouth again. Damn it, she was injured. She was actually injured by Yi Qingyu's fist. The surrounding people were also in an uproar. This brat was too incredible. Wasn't he just a quadruple crown champion? How could he defeat a quasi-emperor? The gap between the two of them was extremely huge. Countless people were dumbfounded. Could it be that this brat was a genius? Could he fight someone of a higher level? However, this was the first time in their lives that they saw a quadruple crown champion injuring a quasi-emperor. Your ice is so weak that it doesn't pose any threat to me at all. Now, you know the gap between us, right? Lin Xian looked at Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu and said with a smile, "Damn it." Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's expression was ugly, but she did not dare to attack again. She gritted her teeth and wanted to retreat. Lin Xian said, "Do you want to leave?" The illusion of 9 suns circled between heaven and earth. They were like 9 golden crows spreading their wings and flying. Between heaven and earth, there was a sea of fire. Everyone exclaimed when they felt the power of this flame. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu shouted angrily, "You are going too far." "What do you want?" Lin Xian said, "You have challenged me time and time again. Do you want to die? If you don't want to, hand over your immortal technique." Yi Qingyu also cultivated the ice immortal technique, which was very suitable for Xueqi. "Damn it, you dare to covet my immortal technique?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was completely enraged. "You are courting death," she shouted angrily, and a crescent moon appeared behind her. The phantom of the moon caused the entire moon palace to shake. Countless people were terrified. The power of the moon. This woman can't be using the power of the moon palace, right? Lin Xian also shouted angrily. 6 paths of reincarnation. An extremely terrifying light shadow appeared in his eyes, shaking heaven and earth. Then, a reincarnation sword appeared and slashed down from the sky. Although it was just an illusion, it shocked many people. Some people even knelt on the ground. Damn it, what is this? Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's expression became extremely ugly. This was the power of reincarnation. She was so frightened that she turned around and fled. However, how could she escape? The sword fell, and one of her arms was cut off. She was sent flying. Countless cracks appeared on her body, and her arm instantly turned into white bones. She entered the reincarnation sword. She was also severely injured. Lin Xian stepped in the air and pointed his sword forward. Die or submit. Chapter 5640. Don't kill me. I admit defeat. I'm willing to hand over an immortal technique. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu said quickly. In the face of life and death, immortal techniques could be given up. Lin Xian snorted coldly. She should have been so obedient from the start. The reincarnation light in his eyes disappeared, and the phantom of the reincarnation sword also vanished. The terrifying reincarnation pressure was gone, and the surrounding people breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, when they looked at Lin Xian, their eyes were filled with fear and awe. This person was too strong. Even ordinary quasi-emperors were no match for him at all. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu took out a scroll and said, Immortal Technique, Cold Moon Blade. Lin Xian said, This technique had better not have any mistakes. Otherwise, no matter where you escape to or the universe, I can kill you. With that, he put away the scroll, turned around, and continued to descend towards the palace of bones below. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's face was ugly. Her broken hand bones had regenerated, but she was too ashamed to stay here. She turned around and left. The others also did not dare to get close to Lin Xian. After Lin Xian descended, he used the sky-swallowing jar to block the fragments of the extreme weapon to prevent a sneak attack. At the same time, he used his Rinnegan to look. Under his Rinnegan, he saw a shocking murderous aura. In particular, the heads of those quasi-emperors were roaring crazily. It was a kind of unwillingness. This shocked Lin Xian. Did these quasi-emperors not reincarnate? Then have they formed resentful spirits? He was extremely shocked. Just as he was about to open the 6 paths of reincarnation to investigate carefully, something even more terrifying happened. In the depths of the palace, there was an earth-shattering sound. It was a shrill roar that made one's scalp tingle. Endless cracks appeared in the entire void. And in this palace of bones, those blood-colored extreme weapon fragments also quickly floated, seemingly forming a blood-colored scimitar. On the scimitar, an extreme weapon aura condensed, a figure in a blood-red robe whose face could not be seen clearly, but the murderous aura on his body was extremely terrifying. The moment he appeared, it was as if the god of death had appeared. The surrounding boundary emperors all knelt on the ground. Lin Xian also felt a huge pressure. He roared, and the dragon inside his body roared. An invincible sword will surrounded him. He stared at the figure in front of him. Fear, incomparable fear. This figure had an extremely powerful extreme path power that made his hair stand on end. Was the other party going to attack? Lin Xian took a deep breath and prepared to activate the Great Dragon Sword Soul and the Heaven-Swallowing Jar. That was because this person was incredibly strong, and the threat he felt from King Jadefall was no less than what he felt from King Jadefall. However, at this moment, a figure floated over. Boy, we meet again. Let's go. Lin Xian turned and discovered that it was the Soul Emperor's daughter. The other party said, "Someone is chasing me from behind. I can use someone else to kill him. You can also borrow a knife. We'll leave together." As soon as she finished speaking, her figure disappeared. Behind him, 3 figures walked over. These 3 people were wearing ancient Taoist robes. Their faces were expressionless, and their eyes were hollow. There was a crescent moon between their eyebrows. It was blooming with mysterious moonlight. What was this? Lin Xian was surprised. He felt an extremely ancient and terrifying power. They were from the Moon Clan. Soul Girl ran even faster after saying that. The others were also shocked. The Moon Clan? Could it be related to the Moon Palace? They heard that the Moon Clan had long disappeared. How could they still be alive? The surrounding boundary emperors were also frightened and retreated. Lin Xian took this opportunity to leave. At this moment, the blood-colored figure condensed from the blood-colored scimitar roared and stretched out a blood-colored palm that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The 3 mysterious Moon Clan members also roared. There was a terrifying moonlight between their eyebrows. The 2 sides actually fought. Lin Xian took this opportunity to retreat. "Let's go!" The crown princess shouted from afar. Lin Xian nodded and left. The 6 boundary emperors also followed him and flew into the distance. A great battle broke out. It was very terrifying. The others were also terrified. The Moon Palace was too terrifying. There were countless ancient powerhouses in it. The King of Jade Drop, the head of a boundary emperor, the fragment of an extreme Tao weapon, and the Lost Moon Clan. These people seemed to have their own formations. Once they met, they would fight. Then why did these people come here in the first place? This seemed to be a mystery. In the depths of the Moon Palace, in the mysterious sea, the Dragon Queen's expression was incomparably cold. She said, "Are you really not willing?" In front of her, the statue of the goddess on the mysterious sea also let out a low voice. "You can leave." "Humph, since I'm here, I won't leave so easily." The Dragon Queen shouted angrily. "Today, you have to agree even if you don't want to." With a roar, the dragon chi on his body erupted, and his eyes were like lightning. The 10,000 dragons diagram on his body instantly flew out. The 10,000 dragons roared and launched an extreme Tao attack. The anger of 10,000 dragons was incomparably terrifying. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. In the mysterious sea ahead, an ancient tree appeared. The ancient tree was not big, only a meter or so. It released an incomparably mysterious light. There was actually immortal energy hanging from it. At the same time, the mysterious statue of the goddess seemed to have moved. With a boom, the ancient tree in front charged toward the 10,000 dragons diagram. The 10,000 dragon shadows were blocked, forming countless black holes. The Dragon Queen frowned. "The 7 Wonders ancient tree. It's actually still in your hands. You dare to attack me? Unforgivable." The statue of the goddess coldly snorted. The 7 Wonders ancient tree erupted again, its power sweeping through the world. The Dragon Queen also roared angrily and charged forward. The 2 extreme Tao weapons collided. The power caused the Quasi-Emperor's scalps to go numb. The 7th Dragon General and the people of the 10,000 Dragons Court could only kneel on the ground and send their power into the 10,000 Dragons diagram. Other than that, they could not do anything else. Boom! A shocking collision of extreme Tao weapons rang out, spreading throughout the entire Moon Palace. The people in the Moon Palace all looked up at the sky. When they felt this aura, they all sucked in a cold breath. What kind of power is this? It's too terrifying. Why do I feel like it can easily kill quasi-emperors? These people have all gone crazy. The people of the Gu family sucked in a cold breath. Extreme Tao weapons. And one of them was actually the power of the 10,000 dragons diagram. The 10,000 dragons court also came here. They were too shocked. On the other side, the quasi-emperors beside Lin Xian were also shocked. Even the Soul Emperor's daughter furrowed her eyebrows. Lin Xian's face sank. The 10,000 dragons diagram. Is it the Dragon Queen? She actually went to the depths of the Moon Palace. He could feel that this power came from an extremely far place. Clearly, this Moon Palace was boundlessly vast. The Dragon Queen had indeed awakened. Lin Xian was surprised. At the same time, she was shocked. Who was the Dragon Queen fighting against? It was also a super powerful and mysterious power that blocked the 10,000 dragons diagram. From the looks of it, there was also an incredible existence in the Moon Palace. Sensing this aura, the three people from the Moon Palace stopped attacking. They quickly flew into the distance, a hint of madness in their eyes. As for the broken full moon scimitar, it soared into the air and charged into the depths of the Moon Palace. Let's go! The demon god wings appeared on Lin Xian's back. He flapped them and moved at his maximum speed. He wanted to leave this place. However, at this moment, the blood-colored light appeared again in the distance. The broken full moon scimitar actually charged over at an extremely fast speed. Moreover, its target was Lin Xian. Chapter 56:41. Not good. Seeing that the extreme Dao weapon had returned, the surrounding people quickly fled. Kaiser Blood and the others also felt their scalps go numb. They also quickly left. Lin Xian frowned because he found that no matter where he went, the full moon scimitar seemed to have locked onto him. Damn it, it was coming for him. He snorted coldly and struck out with his sword to block it. With a clang, the sword chi was bounced away. The fragments of the extreme weapon seemed to want to merge together and completely recover. In the end, the fragments quickly scattered when they approached Lin Xian, forming an encirclement. It enveloped Lin Xian. It was coming for that kid. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all exclaimed in surprise. Not good, Lin Gongzi, be careful. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others also exclaimed. They watched from afar, but no one dared to get close. A fragment of the extreme weapon could pierce through them. Lin Xian also frowned. There was a terrifying black vortex around him, bobbing up and down. At the same time, a monstrous sword chi rose from his body. Why was this thing targeting him? Was it because he had an extreme weapon? But it shouldn't be. He also fought just now, but the opponent still left. But in the end, it came back to wait for him. The last thing it used was the demon god's wings. Could it be related to demonic chi? He once again used his demonic chi to form the demonic chi armor. The overwhelming demonic power swept in all directions, and the fragments of the full moon scimitar shook violently. The endless murderous aura seemed to condense into a figure. It was a figure in a blood-red robe, like a killing god. As soon as this figure appeared, a terrifying, murderous intent locked onto Lin Xian. Lin Xian frowned. Damn it, it couldn't be related to the demon emperor, right? Sure enough, as if sensing the demonic chi behind this figure, it also condensed into the phantom of the demon emperor. As soon as he appeared, countless people were terrified. Damn it, another phantom appeared. There was an expert behind this brat. The surrounding quasi-emperors felt their scalps go numb. Even the Soul Emperor's daughter was surprised. What kind of changes would happen next? Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. The Devil Emperor really had a lot of enemies back then. The half-frog from before was related to the Demon Emperor, and now the owner of this extreme weapon fragment was also related to the Demon Emperor. In his heart, he asked DeLong who was the Devil Emperor in the past. How many enemies were there? DeLong said he had already become a demon, so he had no misgivings when doing things. Back then, he seemed to have become the enemy of the entire world. Lin Xian's face darkened. Why did he feel that cultivating the illusion demon scripture was a huge trap? Who are you? I have no enmity with you. I am no longer the demon emperor from back then. Lin Xian said coldly. I am the moon goddess. That figure also spoke. It was actually a woman, which surprised everyone. Lin Xian was even more surprised. Moon goddess? The other party was indeed arrogant for daring to come up with such a name. However, from this it could be seen that this woman was at least a martial monarch back then. Was such a person also an enemy of the Devil Emperor? You're not him. You've cultivated his cultivation method. The moon goddess in front of him said coldly. However, the killing intent in her eyes didn't seem to disappear, which made Lin Xian's hair stand on end. Lin Xian said, I'm indeed not the Devil Emperor. So what enmity did we have back then? I don't know either. Lin Xian really didn't know. He didn't even know if the moon goddess was from the Permitha realm. However, the moon palace was so strange now. If it fought with a martial monarch's phantom, who knew what would happen? Of course, if the other party insisted on fighting, Lin Xian wasn't afraid. At most, it would be a fight. Enmity? The moon goddess suddenly sneered. Her voice made one's soul tremble. Even though you're not him, you've still cultivated his cultivation method. Furthermore, you've even condensed an illusion of him. I don't believe that he's really dead. I want to see if he will come to save you in the end. The moon goddess wanted to attack. The surrounding fragments of the full moon blade exploded with terrifying killing intent. Lin Xian's face changed. You want to fight? I'll accompany you to the end. He snorted coldly. The sky-devouring jar swallowed the sky and earth, blocking the fragments of the extreme weapon. At this moment, the moon goddess in front of him slapped with her palm. You're still too young. You're no match for me. Feeling the power of this palm, Lin Xian didn't dare to be careless. He condensed sword qi in his hands and slashed out. The power of the great dragon sword soul exploded. With a clang, he blocked the palm. The moon goddess retracted her palm and looked in front of her with incomparable surprise. The power of the great dragon sword. You actually have it? She was really shocked. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Although I'm not a quasi-emperor, it won't be that easy for you to catch me. The sword qi on his body became more and more terrifying, as if it was going to pierce through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into a supreme sword god. What an arrogant kid. I want to see how far you can use the power of the great dragon sword. The moon goddess phantom took a step forward and was about to attack. At this moment, another shocking attack came from the depths of the moon palace. The collision of extreme weapons caused the entire moon palace to shake violently. The moon goddess turned her head and looked into the distance. Her brows furrowed slightly. At the same time, there seemed to be a heavenly sound between heaven and earth. Is it summoning me? The moon goddess was stunned. Then she waved her hand, and the full moon scimitar condensed under her feet again. She soared into the sky. Kid, I'll remember you. Don't even think about escaping. After saying that, the moon goddess cut through the void and disappeared. Did she leave? The surrounding people all heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned deeply. Just now, he also felt that the voice seemed to be a kind of summoning. Who was summoning the moon goddess? Was it because of the collision of extreme weapons inside? Also, who was the Dragon Queen's enemy? How many great emperors were buried in this moon palace? In the depths of the moon palace, a stone door that was incomparably heavy. Behind the stone door was a world of its own. It was also a hall. The surrounding starry sky of the universe flickered mysteriously. A figure stood in the hall. Her face was beautiful, and there were 365 golden vortexes spinning around her body. It was Shen Jingqiu. At this moment, she was holding a jade flute in her hand and gently blowing it. The mysterious and summoning voice came from the jade flute. At this moment, the stone door behind her opened, and a bloody figure rushed in. The moon goddess looked forward. Are you summoning me? Shun Jingqiu put down the jade flute in her hand. She turned her head, and a mysterious light appeared in her eyes. At the same time, 365 mysterious figures sat cross-legged beside her. The heavenly sound was heard again. "It's you," the moon goddess exclaimed. She was extremely surprised. "That's right, I'm here. I want to accept the inheritance of the divine path. I want to ignite the divine flame." Shun Jingqiu said coldly. "No problem." The moon goddess phantom walked over. A rune of the moon appeared between her eyebrows and then turned into a flaming moon. That was the power of the divine flame, a complete divine flame. It was not a seed. If Lin Xian were here, he would be shocked. It seemed that the moon goddess was a great emperor who walked the divine path back then. And now, she was going to help Shun Jingqiu open the path of the divine path with her own hands. Chapter 5642. Moon Palace. The Mysterious Ocean. The Dragon Queen's expression became extremely ugly, although she had the 10,000 dragons picture. The other party also had the Seven Wonders ancient tree. It was not weaker than an extreme Tao weapon. Therefore, she didn't have the upper hand at all. More importantly, she was still frozen by the god crystal and hadn't woken up yet. And the other party was one of the masters of the Moon Palace. If they continued fighting, she would probably be suppressed. So she snorted coldly. "Guanghan Xian, I'll ask you one last time. Are you really not willing to cooperate?" "No." The goddess statue in front of her said coldly. "Fine, just you wait. When Brother Tian returns, he will flatten your Moon Palace." The Brother Tian she was talking about was naturally the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Queen still believed that the Dragon Emperor was not dead, and he should be in the depths of the deity ground. "Even if the Dragon Emperor comes, my answer will be the same." The Guanghan Xian in front of her said coldly, "Humph, let's go." The Dragon Queen turned around and left with the people of the 10,000 dragons court. The 10,000 dragons picture turned into a divine dragon that shattered heaven and earth and disappeared. The mysterious ocean fell silent again, and the goddess statue in front of her whispered. Just now, she seemed to have sensed the aura of the demon emperor. Was he here too? In the next moment, lightning flashed in her eyes, turning into 2 streaks of immortal chi that pierced through heaven and earth. She looked into the distance. She saw a man in the Moon Palace, surrounded by demonic chi, that was slowly disappearing. For Crown King's cultivation shouldn't be that of the demon emperor. Was he a successor? The Guanghan Xian didn't care at first. It was normal for a great emperor to have a successor. But when she saw Lin Xian's appearance, her body trembled. How was that possible? The statue on her body quickly shattered, and then a beautiful woman walked out. This woman was like a fairy of the moon. She had a cold aura about her. Her beautiful face was unprecedented in the human world. How could it be him? In the next moment, she held the Seven Wonders ancient tree and waved it gently. A streak of immortal chi flew out. Outside, after the moon god left, the surrounding people heaved a sigh of relief. How was that the moon god? She was simply a god of death. Lin Xian also frowned. What was the moon god's relationship with the Palace of Bones? He couldn't help but feel that the other party's killing intent was simply too terrifying. Just as he was about to ask DeLong, the void suddenly split open again, and a terrifying power emerged. This power wasn't any weaker than an extreme weapon. The moment he appeared, the surrounding quasi-emperors vomited blood and were sent flying. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. *M*. Was the moon goddess here again? They had gone too far. He roared angrily and threw out the sky-devouring jar. At the same time, sword chi swept out. It collided with the terrifying light. With a loud clang, Lin Xian's chi and blood roiled as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was dumbfounded. What kind of power was this? It was too scary. The great dragon sword soul was invincible, but it was unable to break through the other party's defenses. The great dragon in his body said, this was immortal energy, immortal chi. Lin Xian was astonished. Only great emperors had immortal energy. Had a living great emperor made a move? It was too unbelievable. Whether it was the frog that had been sealed or the moon god, they were both incomplete emperors. But now, was a real great emperor about to make a move? Immortal energy descended like chains, shrouding Lin Xian. In the next moment, he was taken away. Boom, boom. The void shattered, and it took a long time for it to slowly recover. The surrounding quasi-emperors raised their heads, their faces filled with horror. Was it a great emperor who made a move? It was too unbelievable. Let's go. Let's escape. We can't stay in the Moon Palace. Previously, they were here to search for treasures, but now they realized that the Moon Palace was even more terrifying than hell. They desperately wanted to leave. Where was Lin Gongzi? Quasi-Emperor Mandala and the others were also shocked. Kaiser Blood said, it seemed that he had been taken away by the great emperor. It was over. He was doomed. Although they had seen Lin Xian's miraculous abilities compared to a great emperor, everything was nothing. No matter how strong Lin Xian was, he couldn't defeat a great emperor. The 6 quasi-emperors shook their heads and sighed. A top genius had fallen, and they could only leave. Lin Xian was also shocked when he was shrouded by immortal energy. The great emperor attacked him again. Was this the power of a great emperor? It was too unbelievable. Even if he used the heaven-swallowing jar and other extreme weapons, he couldn't block it. However, the other party didn't kill him, but took him away. Why? Did the great emperor of the Permitha realm want to seal him again? Lin Xian's face was incomparably cold. If it was really the Permitha realm, then he would risk his life to enter the sword world and use all his strength to resist. He wouldn't be sealed again. Dalong said, Kid, don't act rashly. It might not be someone from the Permitha realm. In the next moment, the void broke open, and a stream of immortal energy brought Lin Xian into the front. Lin Xian stopped and looked around. It was empty and dark all around, and there was a mysterious sea in front of him. Above the mysterious sea stood a beautiful figure. She looked like a fairy from the moon. Beside her was an ancient tree with a mysterious aura surrounding it. It was very similar to the one beside Lin Xian, an ancient tree surrounded by immortal energy. This was an extreme weapon. Lin Xian was shocked. Then, this woman must be the great emperor. Guanghan Celestial waved her hand, and the immortal energy brought Lin Xian in front of her. The two of them were less than 10 meters apart. Lin Xian sensed the aura in front of him. He asked solemnly, Who are you? Are you from the Permitha realm? Guanghan Celestial didn't reply. She just stared at Lin Xian and didn't stop. This made Lin Xian's hair stand on end. Who are you? Lin Xian hollered in rage like a dragon's roar. 10,000 dragons roared. Guanghan Celestial frowned. Why do you have the aura of the dragon path? If she wasn't wrong, he couldn't have it. Lin Xian scoffed coldly. I have the aura of the dragon path. So what? He stepped forwards and dragon-shaped sword energy exploded. A terrifying aura roared in all directions. It was actually the power of the great dragon sword. It seems like you aren't from the 10,000 dragon court. You know about the 10,000 dragon court? Was the dragon queen fighting with you just now? Lin Xian was shocked too. His eyes had the power of reincarnation as he looked around to capture the aura. As expected, he saw the aura of the 10,000 dragons diagram. The dragon queen was here just now. Great dragon sword, eye of reincarnation. You really have many things on you. Guanghan Celestial was shocked. Let me ask you, do you know Lin Zhan? Where is he? Lin Xian was stunned. You know my father? He was really stunned. Could it be that this was his father's enemy in the past? You are Lin Zhan's son? Guanghan Celestial frowned. After not seeing him for so many years, did he already get married and have children? A cold light appeared in her eyes, piercing through the 9 heavens. Lin Xian's blood boiled. The devouring vortex around him seemed to have been split open. Who are you? Do you have a grudge against my father? Humph, don't even think about suppressing me and threatening my father. I will leave even if I have to risk my life. Dragon scales appeared on Lin Xian's body. He wanted to merge with the dragon soul and tear apart the sky. Guanghan Celestial didn't attack. Mist appeared in her eyes. Suddenly, she hollered, Lin Zhan, why didn't you wait for me? Chapter 56:43. Her voice pierced through the clouds. The mysterious sea started to churn violently like a raging sea. Lin Xian was also shaken up. He used the heaven-swallowing jar to protect his body. At the same time, he was shocked. This person knew his father and felt that their relationship wasn't ordinary. Because he felt that the last Lu Han wasn't filled with killing intent, but with resentment. What was the relationship between this woman and his father? Could it be? Thinking of some possibilities, Lin Xian's expression became very strange. However, he still had to confirm. Senior, are you friends with my father? He asked curiously. The Moon Immortal couldn't calm down for a long time. When she heard Lin Xian's words, she lowered her head again and stared at Lin Xian. Lin Xian smiled awkwardly. The Moon Immortal said, Don't ask about my relationship with your father. Why are you here? The Moon Palace is so mysterious. I'm here to condense the immortal chi seed. It's not difficult. I can help you. However, she frowned again. Lin Zhan is on the divine Tao. Why didn't he help you condense the divine Tao seed? Lin Xian sighed. His father and the others seemed to have other plans. They had already gone to the depths of the deity ground. As for the divine fire seed, I already have it. Speaking of this, Lin Xian opened the divine fire mark between his eyebrows. A mysterious flame appeared and spread in all directions. The Moon Immortal was stunned. Firstly, she was shocked by Lin Zhan's actions. Did he go to the depths of the deity ground again? He failed last time. Would he succeed this time? It seems that it's time for me to come out. But why didn't he come to find me? It seemed that the Moon Immortal still had some resentment towards Lin Zhan. At the same time, she was even more shocked by Lin Xian. You have the divine fire seed, but you still want to condense the immortal chi seed. You're too greedy. You're Lin Zhan's son. That's why I'm reminding you. In the past, there were people who wanted to walk these 2 paths, but they all failed. You'd better continue on the divine Tao. Are you sure you want to walk both paths? Lin Xian nodded. He said, I'm sure. Others might have failed, but it didn't mean that he would fail too. Why not try? Everything was possible. If he didn't even dare to try, wouldn't that be a pity? The immortal of Guanghan Xian sighed. She knew that young men were stubborn, so she couldn't say anything more. Since you insist, then I wish you good luck. I can help you condense the immortal chi seed. With that, he waved his hand, causing the 7 Wonders ancient tree to fly over. It floated up into the air and began to emit immortal energy. Comprehending the immortal chi on it, whether or not you can condense the seed, will depend on your own luck. Lin Xian nodded and sat down, cross-legged. He began to sense the immortal chi from the 7 Wonders ancient tree. The divine flame between his eyebrows pulsed. At the same time, there was also celestial chi revolving around his body. Lin Xian quickly comprehended this power. That was indeed the case. It would not be easy for him to perfectly fuse the 2 powers into his body. However, Lin Xian really wanted to give it a try. Just like that, he began to cultivate. The Guanghan Immortal stood in the distance and shook his head slightly when he saw this. If Lin Xian had chosen the immortal Tao and not the divine Tao, he could understand. The divine Tao was probably even more difficult now. Only people like Lin Zhan in the past could persevere on. It was very difficult for a newcomer to walk the divine Tao. At least, it was much more difficult than the immortal Tao. After all, there were many things related to the immortal Tao in the deity ground. As for the divine Tao, there were too few of them in the deity ground. Even if one comprehended it, the divine flame seed would make it even more difficult to increase one's strength in the future. However, this guy was actually cultivating both at the same time. She did not think highly of him at all. The way he saw it, Lin Xian would probably give up before long. Under normal circumstances, the Guanghan Immortal's guess was right. However, she did not know that Lin Xian had the sword world in his body, which was the so-called divine domain. This was also the reason why Lin Xian wanted to walk the immortal Tao. Although he didn't know the specifics of the plan, he could tell from the few words he had heard. Back then, Lin Zhan and the others must have fought in the depths of the deity ground, or even the other side. In the end, they failed. Now that they were doing it again, what were the chances of success? Probably no one was confident. If Lin Xian wanted to defeat the Heavenly King, he would have to think of a new way. His way was to cultivate the divine Tao and the immortal Tao together. Perhaps he would only have a chance to defeat the Heavenly King if he created his own Tao. However, this process was very difficult. He had already condensed the divine flame seed. Although the great Tao had returned to one, it would be difficult for him to create another divine flame seed in his glabella. Lin Xian condensed the divine flame seed in his left eye. Endless light and fragments of immortal qi gathered toward his left eye. There seemed to be the sound of thunder in the sky. So fast, the Guanghan immortal realm, although the Seven Wonders ancient tree was mysterious and allowed people to condense the divine flame seed, he had never seen someone as fast as Lin Xian. It had only been a month. He had already condensed the divine flame seed. His experience should have come from the fusion and condensation of the divine flame seed. However, how did he condense the divine flame seed in his body? The Guanghan Immortal's eyes also emitted cold divine qi as he looked ahead. He could not understand. He frowned slightly. Lin Zhan's son was really mysterious. He did not know who his mother was. Could she be better than him? Lin Xian shouted angrily and started to transcend the tribulation, the lightning tribulation and the immortal flame tribulation. This process also took several months. Half a year later, Lin Xian opened his eyes. The reincarnation light in his right eye shone. There was a divine flame in his glabella. His left eye was very mysterious. There was fog surrounding it. If one looked carefully, they would realize that it was a fragment of divine flame seed. The divine flame seed was condensed in his left eye. Was this the power of divine flame seed? Sensing this mysterious power, Lin Xian took a deep breath. Although he was still a quadruple crown king, his strength was more than 10 times stronger than before. He was too strong. He could kill an ordinary quadruple crown king with one slap. He could also defeat a quadruple crown king. And now, he was only a quadruple crown king. Once he broke through to the boundary emperor realm, his strength would become even more unfathomable. Could he become a quadruple crown king? Lin Xian's eyes shone with a terrifying light. It pierced through the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Legend had it that someone had become a quadruple crown king before becoming an emperor. Now, Lin Xian's goal was also to become a quadruple crown king. Before becoming an emperor, he had to become a quadruple crown king. He stood up and roared at the sky. The power of the divine flame and divine flame seed spread out from his body. It was extremely mysterious. The Guanghan Immortal in front was also shocked. This kid had really succeeded. However, he still frowned, because with his strength, he could see that although Lin Xian had condensed 2 types of power, they were 2 different types of power. However, These two powers were clearly separated and did not fuse together. He could only let Lin Xian explore his future path himself. If he was not careful, his soul might be destroyed. Chapter 56:44. Thank you, Senior. Lin Xian landed and looked at Guanghan Celestial. He cupped his fists and said gratefully, without him, it would have taken a long time for him to condense celestial energy. Now he managed to condense it in a month. Kid, I have to remind you that this path is very dangerous and you can die at any moment. Do you understand? Lin Xian nodded. Don't worry, Senior. I won't be rash and I won't die. All right, you can leave now. If you meet Lin Zhan, Guanghan Celestial shook his head before he finished. Forget it. I will handle this myself. You can leave. He waved his hand and broke the space, sending Lin Xian out. After Lin Xian left, he had a weird expression. He said, DeLong, do you know about my father's relationship with Guanghan Celestial? DeLong said, this is hard to say. You can ask him in the future. Damn. As expected, there was a problem. Lin Xian sighed. Forget it. This wasn't something he could care about. Right now, he was very happy because his strength was really too strong. He waved his hand, and the celestial energy seed in his left eye exploded. He used the true water sword technique. This time, the true water sword technique was much stronger than before. This was a true celestial technique. The sword energy was like a water dragon in the sky. It was soft enough to restrain everything. At that moment, demonic energy spread out from his right hand. The god flame seed danced. The demon god seal was used. A top technique, celestial technique in his left hand, and a technique in his right. Lin Xian roared into the sky. He really wanted to find Six-Crowned King and fight him. Hong. At that moment, another person appeared in the mysterious ocean. It was a huge person. It was like a mountain. It was a jade rabbit. After it appeared, it looked at Guanghan Celestial and started crying. Little Jade, you are here. When Guanghan Celestial turned around and looked at the jade rabbit, he smiled. That smile made the sky lose its color. The jade rabbit's body shrank, turning into a cute little rabbit, and flew over. Little Jade, you are finally back. That is great. Guanghan Celestial was delighted. She waved the Seven Wonders ancient tree and unleashed boundless immortal chi into the distance. The entire Moon Palace shook violently. At this moment, the people in the Moon Palace also looked up at the sky. Their faces were filled with fear. In the next instant, they felt a ray of light streak past them. Their escape route had appeared. The chilly winds in the surroundings also disappeared. The Een soldiers also disappeared. The terrifying scene also completely disappeared. Those ancient existences had hidden everything. The Moon Palace has opened. Let's run. Although they didn't know what had happened, those who were still alive didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Their courage from before was all gone. These people quickly fled. Has it been opened? It was a good opportunity. Lin Xian opened his devil god wings, and he transformed into a beam of light that shot forward. On the way, he met a group of people and said, "You guys are still here?" Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others were stunned when they heard this and looked up at the sky. When they saw Lin Xian, they were dumbfounded. "Young master, you're still alive?" They were really too shocked. Wasn't Lin Xian captured by a supreme existence? That was a great emperor. Didn't the great emperor kill him? How could he come out alive? Lin Xian said, "Do you guys really want me to die?" There was a trace of cold light in his eyes. The power of the immortal chi seed appeared. These quasi-emperors felt a sense of pressure. How was this possible? Why was he like a god? They were shocked. Although they saw that Lin Xian was still a quadruple champion, his aura had completely surpassed them. He was someone they looked up to. Kaiser Blood hurriedly said, "We knew you wouldn't die." "Yes, young master, we've been waiting for you." The other quasi-emperors spoke one after another. Lin Xian nodded. Then let's go. He took the lead. The quasi-emperors behind him followed. These people left the Moon Palace one after another. When they came out, they heaved a sigh of relief. Some of them even roared at the sky after coming out. Some knelt on the ground and cried. It couldn't be helped. It was too dangerous inside. This time, half of the people who went in died. This included half of the quasi-emperors. What kind of loss was this? Even in the deity ground, quasi-emperors were the leaders of their clans and grand elders. Such people died like cabbages in the Moon Palace. If this news spread, the chosen immortal clan would probably be shocked. Damn it, this place is too terrifying. I definitely can't go in again in the future. Some of the chosen ones shook their heads. On the other side, the people from the Gu family also came out. Their expressions were also ugly. Gu Xiao didn't die. In fact, the number of people who died was very small. Because of the apex weapon. Even so, they still sighed. There was no opportunity here. They should go somewhere else. In addition, in the darkness, Yao Guang came and immediately fled. He also gritted his teeth. This time, he also didn't gain anything. After everyone came out, the Moon Palace slowly closed. Everyone looked at the mysterious Moon Palace in the sky and sighed. At the same time, they were puzzled. They didn't know what kind of people were inside. Were they dead or were they alive? Especially when they thought of the King of Jade Drop and the others, they were even more shocked. There were endless treasures inside. The Emperor weapon fragment, the Jade Drop Bell. However, they didn't have the ability to bring it out. At this moment, in another mysterious place in the depths of the Moon Palace, Shen Jingqiu also slowly opened her eyes. A divine flame appeared between her eyebrows and swept through the 9 heavens. Did it succeed? Her lips curled up into a smile. She had finally condensed a divine flame seed. However, she didn't leave immediately. Instead, she sat down cross-legged. She wanted to completely stabilize her cultivation base. Lin Xian didn't know that Shen Jingqiu had come to the Moon Palace and was very close to him. He even knew that she had broken through inside. However, he didn't give up looking for her. The people of the Divine Union also had a portrait of Shen Jingqiu. If they met her, they would inform him. At the same time, Lin Xian also received some information from Qing Cheng and Yan Ruyu. It turned out that other than the Moon Palace, there were also some mysterious palaces that open in other places. For example, Murong Qingcheng and the others had entered a palace that looked like a thunder god. They also obtained some good fortune from there. Perhaps it wouldn't take long for them to become boundary emperors. This was good news. Lin Xian didn't go immediately. He knew that Qing Cheng and Yan Ryu both had emperor weapons with them. Even if there was danger, they should be able to protect themselves. The 6 quasi-emperors at the side invited Lin Xian to their clans as guests. Boundary Emperor Mandala even said, "Young master, there is a gathering organized by the chosen immortal race. Young master, you must come. Perhaps you can get some information about the depths of the deity land." Hearing this, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. He said, "Okay, I will go." Chapter 56:45. Lin Xian also wanted to see how the gathering in the deity ground would be like. These chosen immortal clans were not ordinary. Each clan had a few boundary emperors. He also wanted to see more immortal techniques. The boundary emperors were also excited. Lin Xian was strong. If he was willing to go, they would be proud. The boundary emperors went back to make preparations. Lin Xian also went to find a place. At this moment, he saw Boundary Emperor Tianshui, who was going to return to the Shuiyun clan. Boundary Emperor Tianshui was also shocked. After all, the Moon Palace was so terrifying. After seeing Lin Xian, he felt as if he had eaten a calming pill. Therefore, he was eager to stay by Lin Xian's side to seek safety. Lin Xian followed Boundary Emperor Tianshui back to the Shuiyun clan to wait for the gathering in the deity ground. On the other side, a big battle broke out in a valley. The two sides were Shangguan Shaoxian, Hongye, and the Tsongsong clan. The people of the Tsongsong tribe did not stop after being chased away by the Tianshui quasi-emperor. They attacked again and finally met Shangguan Shaoxian. The two of them fought fiercely. Shangguan Shaoxian and Fu Hongye were no match for them. At the last moment, they used their jade pendants to teleport. Want to leave? However, this time, the one who attacked was a top genius of the Tsongsong clan. He held a weapon made by a Boundary Emperor in his hand. It was called the Spirit-Fixing Needle. After flying out, it fixed one of Shangguan Shaoxian's spiritual and one of her physical souls. Fu Hongye's spiritual soul was also fixed. Their bodies disappeared, but their remnant souls were caught by the Tsongsong clan. They were going to bring them back. These two people were not ordinary. The array in their hands was so amazing. They could actually escape from the spirit-fixing needle. Humph. I must find out which clan they belong to. I want to see how amazing the people in the small universe are. They were also a little jealous of that array. If they knew the other party's sect, they would go out and suppress it. Divine union. At this moment, there were some disciples left behind. They did not have the strength to enter the deity ground, so they continued to cultivate at the mountain gate. On this day, there was a flash of light, and a few figures appeared. It was Senior Sister Shangguan. Many people rushed over and saw that the two people were Shangguan Shaoxian and Fu Hongye. However, the expressions of the two men turned extremely ugly. Some of our souls have been taken. After saying this, the two of them fainted. Not good. Those disciples were also in a state of panic. Damn it! Who did this to him? Was it another Emperor clan? Or was it someone from the celestial ground? They didn't know, so they could only send the two of them into the main hall. Lin Xian didn't know about any of this. He was currently waiting in the Shuiyun clan, discussing immortal energy seeds with Patriarch Truewater and Patriarch Heavenwater. As well as the use of immortal techniques, he had benefited a lot. The two old ancestors were also shocked. The last time they saw Lin Xian did not have an immortal chi seed. But this time, the other party actually managed to condense it. This was really unexpected. This kind of improvement speed was far beyond their own, causing the two of them to be both envious and frightened. Especially the Sky Water Patriarch. He had entered the Moon Palace before and knew how terrifying it was inside. A quasi-emperor was probably an ant inside. However, Lin Xian was able to obtain an opportunity in such a dangerous situation. It was really unbelievable. The two of them were even more in awe of Lin Xian. The three of them discussed Tao. Half a month later, Lin Xian was ready to leave for the celestial ground because he received news that the gathering in the celestial ground was almost over. The two old ancestors still wanted to have a final comprehension, so they asked Shui Yunru to accompany Lin Xian. The two of them turned into flowing light and left the Shuiyun clan. Shui Yunru was very excited. Lin Xian's identity was not ordinary now. Not only was he her savior, but even the old ancestors were in awe of him. Therefore, she was also very nervous around such a person. 2 days later, Shui Yunru heaved a sigh of relief because she found that Lin Xian was very calm and kind, completely different from the old ancestors. Therefore, she gradually became more cheerful and told Lin Xian some interesting things in the celestial ground. Finally, they arrived in front of a city. This was the first ancient city in the celestial ground. It was also Lin Xian's first time seeing it. Previously, he had only seen broken ruins and a palace. This city was incomparably majestic, and there was a mysterious and terrifying aura on it. Shui Yunru said that this was the immortal city. There were not many cities in the celestial ground. Large areas were still mountains, forests, and valleys. Therefore, once a city was established, countless families and sects would gather. The gathering this time was also held in the immortal city. Lin Gongzi, please. Shui Yunru led the way in front. Lin Xian nodded and followed in. After entering the immortal city, it was very lively inside. Experts of the celestial ground could be seen everywhere. At this moment, a voice came from behind. Isn't this Shui Xinzi? Hearing this, Shui Yunru turned around in surprise. It turned out to be the young master Shenli. A tall man walked over from behind. The aura on his body condensed into a battle armor. With every step he took, the sky and earth would shake. He had supreme power. The Herculean young master walked over with a smile. Is Shui Xinzi also here to attend the gathering? What a coincidence. Oh, right, let me introduce you. This is my friend, Kuang Yiming. His grandfather is the Berserk Blade Quasi-Emperor. Shui Yunru was surprised. The Berserk Blade Quasi-Emperor was a very powerful Quasi-Emperor. His blade techniques were invincible, and he was quite famous. Therefore, she bowed and greeted the young master. When Kuang Yiming saw Shui Yunru, his eyes lit up. He had seen many beauties, but it was the first time he saw someone as gentle as Shui Yunru. Therefore, he was very excited. However, Shui Yunru did not seem to be very happy. After seeing Lin Xian's strength, the other geniuses did not seem to be enough. Therefore, she came to Lin Xian's side again. Seeing this, the Herculean young master squinted his eyes. Oh, who is this? I don't think I have seen her before. There is an unfamiliar young man beside Shui Yunru. Which family is he from? This is Lin Gongzi. He is an important guest of our Shui Yunru clan. Shui Yunru said. Kuang Yiming also looked over. He had a good impression of Shui Yunru. Was she his competitor? He said that he did not know which family Lin Gongzi was from. He was unfamiliar with him. Lin Xian said indifferently. He was a rogue cultivator. He saw the two people in front of him. They were quadruple champions. In the outside universe, they were definitely top existences that could sweep through everything. However, in the deity ground, they were nothing. Especially in front of him, they were nothing more than ants. Lin Xian did not even care about ordinary quasi-emperors, let alone these two quadruple champions. Therefore, his attitude was very calm. However, Kuang Yiming and Kuang Yiming frowned slightly. They were also famous geniuses of the younger generation, who would not be enthusiastic when they saw them. They would even lower their heads. However, this kid did not seem to be so. The other party's attitude was very arrogant. They checked carefully and realized that Lin Xian was also a quadruple champion. Both of them were angered. At the same level, he was a rogue cultivator with the same strength and status as them. What was there for someone like him to be arrogant about? They could easily kill him with some tricks. Lin Gongzi, right? Seeing that you are also a quadruple champion, let's spar when we have time. Kuang Yiming walked out. His body emitted a terrifying saber light, causing the surrounding people to feel numb. Shui Yunru's face changed as well. Chapter 5646. Lin Xian said, "It was better not to." Why? Are you scared? Kuang Yiming's eyes were filled with pride. In front of a beauty, it would be great if the other party became a coward. What he wanted was to ruthlessly suppress the other party. Lin Xian shook his head. Scared? I'm afraid you'll lose your life. After speaking, Lin Xian turned and left. If the other party sparred with him, would he be able to block a slap? Seeing Lin Xian leave, Shui Yunru hurriedly followed him. However, Kuang Yiming's face was ashen and his body was trembling. Was the other party looking down on him? Damn this brat, he was too arrogant. He couldn't help but want to attack. The Herculean young master pulled him back and said, "Don't be anxious. There will be plenty of opportunities to deal with this brat." Although this brat was a quadruple crown champion, he was just a rogue cultivator. What kind of powerful immortal techniques could he have? He couldn't be compared to us at all. The Herculean young master's eyes were filled with disdain. Kuang Yiming also said coldly, "Humph, what a gigolo! If it wasn't for Fairy Shui, I would have killed him with a single slash." The two of them sneered, not putting Lin Xian in their eyes at all. On the other side, Shui Yunru introduced the two to Lin Xian, as well as their grandfathers, Quasi-Emperor Batian and Quasi-Emperor Frenzied Blade. Lin Xian only nodded slightly after hearing that. He didn't say anything else. Shui Yunru didn't think much of it. Even the two old ancestors of her family bowed down to him. These two quasi-emperors probably wouldn't be able to cause any trouble in front of Lin Gongzi. "Young master, this time we're temporarily staying at Ascending Heaven Tower." Ascending Heaven Tower was very famous in the Immortal City. Shui Yunru continued to lead the way. Ascending Heaven Tower was a very famous tower. It was indomitable and surrounded by clouds. It was like a divine sword that reached the heavens, standing above the Immortal City. This place was also a top-notch residence. Ordinary people weren't qualified to come here at all. There were rays flashing around Ascending Heaven Tower. There were also guards and maids waiting to welcome them. Seeing Shui Yunru and the others walking over, the maids at the front all came to welcome them. The one leading the group was a woman. She was dressed in colorful clothes and had a similarly beautiful face. Furthermore, judging from the other party's identity, he was also a quadruple champion. Presumably, his strength was not ordinary. "Little Sister you're here." The woman smiled. "Sister Jiman." Shui Yunru also greeted him with a smile. At this moment, laughter came from behind. "So it's Fairy Jiman. We're flattered that you're here to welcome us." From the sound of it, he could tell that it was the Herculean Prince and Kuang Yiming. When the two of them looked at Jiman, their eyes also lit up. Fairy Jiman, this was Kuang Yiming, the grandson of the Quasi-Emperor Mad Blade. Kuang Yiming greeted Fairy Jiman. Kuang Yiming walked out with a handsome smile. Jiman Fairy also said, "I have long heard that the wild saber technique is extremely terrifying. No one can match it. Maybe I'll have the chance to see it." Kuang Yiming laughed out loud. The fairy was too polite. It was just a small trick, not enough to reach the apex. The few of them chatted and laughed. Jiman Fairy did not pay attention to Lin Xian. This was because he realized that Lin Xian did not seem to have any background. Such a person was not worthy of his attention. However, when he saw Shui Yunru beside Lin Xian saying something with her head lowered, he was also stunned. "Little Sister who is this prince? Could it be that Shui Yunru brought him here?" "This is Lin Gongzi," Shui Yunru said. Kuang Yiming sneered from behind. "A loose cultivator." "So that's the case." Jiman Fairy did not pay attention to him. It seemed that he did not have any status. He could not be compared to people like them. More importantly, the reason why Shui Yunru was by his side was probably because he was a bit more handsome. Other than that, he was just a pretty boy. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He could feel Kuang Yiming's hostility. However, he did not care. Not to mention the other party. Even the other party's grandfather did not have the qualifications to challenge him. "Brother Yiming, this Princess Jiman is very famous. Do you know about Ascending Heaven Tower?" "The owner of Ascending Heaven Tower is Princess Jiman's aunt. Is that true?" Kuang Yiming was also shocked. He originally thought that she was just a proud daughter of the chosen immortal race. Now, it seemed that it was not just that. Ascending Heaven Tower was so famous. The owner behind it was definitely very powerful. He did not expect Jiman to be related to the other party. It was too inconceivable. Thinking of this, he felt that he could give up on chasing Shui Yunru and chase after Jiman, because once he had a connection with such a person, he would be able to soar to the sky. Jiman acted as though she was the host and invited everyone in. After entering, the young Master Fairy, Kuang Yiming, and even Shui Yunru were arranged to stay in the Heaven Tower. That place was like a paradise on earth. However, when it came to Lin Xian, Jiuman Fairy said that there were not many courtyards in the Heaven Tower. He would have to inconvenience Lin Gongzi. He gave Lin Xian an ordinary room, although it was very good in the eyes of ordinary sages compared to the young Master Fairy and the others. It was not enough. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Shui Yunru also said, "It's fine. Lin Gongzi will stay in my courtyard." This scene shocked Jiuman. Their relationship had already reached this stage. However, Kuang Yiming's face darkened. Damn it, what's so good about this pretty boy? Why does the water fairy favor him so much? Although he had already planned to give up on Shui Yunru, he was still furious at this moment. His eyes were red. Shui Yunru ignored him. She said, "Lin Gongzi, please." Like a little maid, she invited Lin Xian into the heaven-ranked courtyard. After entering, the array was activated. Clouds filled the air, and the people outside could no longer see. Damn it, I will definitely teach him a lesson. Kuang Yiming snorted coldly. Jiuman also said, "This pretty boy is quite capable. However, I will let him know that dragons and snakes will not be together." The courtyard was surrounded by clouds. After entering, Lin Xian felt the power of heaven and earth here. It was very magical. It was extremely beneficial for the cultivation of immortal techniques. Lin Xian sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the energy here to consolidate the immortal chi seed in his left eye. As for the divine fire between his eyebrows, it was supplied by the sword world. Therefore, it could be cultivated stably. This was something that other cultivators of the divine Tao did not have. Shui Yunru had an apologetic expression. "Lin Gongzi, I'm sorry. Sister Jiuman did not mean to target you. She just did not know that you are our benefactor. I will go and explain to her." How could she not understand what happened today? Those geniuses were hostile to Lin Xian and even looked down on him. This made Shui Yunru very angry, but she did not have the chance to explain. Lin Xian said, "There's no need to explain. I don't care about them. The energy here is not bad. You should cultivate well. I took a look at your cultivation. You should have a chance to break through to the quasi-emperor realm." Really? Shui Yunru was delighted. If Lin Xian said so, then he really had hope. "Thank you, Lin Gongzi." She was extremely grateful. Chapter 56-47. There were still a few days before the real gathering began. Therefore, when he had nothing to do, Lin Xian would come out to take a look at the immortal city and feel the aura of the immortal Tao. At the same time, he was puzzled. Divine Tao, immortal Tao, and great Tao were one. But why was the immortal Tao so prosperous? There was even the immortal land and the chosen immortal clan. Why was the divine Tao shattered? What kind of battle happened back then? Walking in the immortal city, Lin Xian's heart was filled with doubts. At this moment, a cry of surprise sounded. "Lin Wuti, you're here?" Hearing this voice, Lin Xian stopped and turned his head to look. He saw a woman with yin and yang aura. She was from the Kuan-Peng clan. She was not a Kuan-Peng, but she was also a proud daughter of the heavens. And it seemed that she had a fortuitous encounter and her cultivation was already at the Triple Crown King level. He wondered what level those emperors had reached. And what about Qingcheng and Ruyu? What about them? Previously, they had split up, so Lin Xian had gone to the Moon Palace. The others should have gone to other places of opportunity. Fairy Kuan-Yu, do you know each other? There was a man beside her. He was handsome and his body was surrounded by multicolored light. There was a pair of pure white wings on his back that flapped gently like an angel. He was a top genius of the Feiyu clan. Fei Jiuxiao said, "He's a genius from the outside universe. His name is Lin Xian, Lin Wuti." People from the outside universe? Fei Jiuxiao looked at him with disdain. How audacious! He actually dared to call himself invincible. Such a person would be instantly killed if he was arrogant in the immortal land. It had been some time since the immortal land descended. The experts from the outside had already entered and fought with the chosen immortal clan. Some had even joined forces. Therefore, the chosen immortal clan knew a lot about the outside universe. For example, they knew that there were a few powerful emperor clans with emperor weapons. Although there were no quasi-emperors, their foundation was still very terrifying. Moreover, after these great emperor clans entered, they used their emperor weapons to sweep through all directions. Gradually, quasi-emperors appeared. They would definitely be unparalleled overlords in the future. As for the others, the chosen immortal clan did not care, because there was no way he could be compared to them. Even if he could break through, he would still be trampled under their feet. This Lin Xian was clearly not from a great emperor clan, so he did not pay much attention to him. Kuan Yu was also extremely shocked. Although Lin Xian had defeated everyone in the outer universe, Kuan Yu was still shocked. Even emperor clans didn't dare provoke the other party. But now, things were different from the past. Now that the celestial ground had descended, the people of the small universe had already come in to look for opportunities. Even their Kunping race had a boundary emperor. In fact, a second boundary emperor had appeared. This greatly increased their strength and boosted their confidence. Furthermore, they believed that it would not be long before their Kunping son also became a quasi-emperor. Lin Wuyi was strong back then, but now they had caught up. They could definitely trample him under their feet. Therefore, when Kuan Yu saw Lin Xian again, his attitude also changed. He was no longer so respectful. Instead, it carried a hint of challenge. After all, they'd once been suppressed by Lin Xian to the point of being unable to raise their heads. Lin Xian glanced at the other party and said indifferently, "If you can come to this place, why can't I?" Kuan Yu said, "Lin Wuyi, this is no longer the small universe outside. You are no longer a high and mighty existence. In front of the chosen immortal race, you have become very ordinary. I can come because of young Master Fei Jiuxiao beside me. He is the pride of the flying feather race. He is very close to the boundary emperor realm. Lin Wuyi, this world has changed. You are no longer high and mighty." "Oh, after saying so much, what are you trying to prove? You want to prove that you have risen? I know that there are a few boundary emperors in the emperor clans, but I also have my own opportunities." It seemed that after coming to the celestial ground, the emperor clans and remote antiquity clans were not convinced of him. However, after thinking about it, these people seemed to have become arrogant with the appearance of a boundary emperor. Humph! It seemed that he had to find an opportunity to teach these emperor clans a lesson. He had to let them know that even in the celestial ground, the divine union was still the king. Opportunities? Humph, you are only a 4-time champion. It seems that your aura is still so weak. It hasn't been long since you became a 4-time champion. Kid, do you know what the real powerhouses of the celestial ground are like? Our flying feather race has 3 boundary emperors. Any one of them can crush you with a single finger. How dare you call yourself invincible? Hurry up and change your name. Otherwise, you might not even know how you died. Fei Jiuxiao snorted. This was already a threat. Lin Xian glanced at him and shook his head slightly. You know nothing about power. Fei Jiuxiao could not even sense his strength. He could be considered a piece of trash. Kid, you dare to challenge me? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Fei Jiuxiao was also angry. He took a step forward. Then I want to see what power is in your eyes. Beside him, Kuan Yu also said, Lin Wuyi, you are too arrogant. You are no match for young Master Fei Jiuxiao now. You better apologize. Stupid woman. Lin Xian shook his head. Had the Kunpeng race become so arrogant? Humph. Kuan Yu was angry and refused to lower her head. Then you can wait to go to hell. He wanted to see how Lin Wuyi could be arrogant in front of the chosen immortal race. At this moment, another figure walked over. Young master, so you are here. Shui Yunru walked over. When he saw Shui Yunru, Fei Jiuxiao's eyes lit up. It was Shui Xianzi. Kuan-Yu was incomparably jealous. This woman's aura was stronger than hers, and she was prettier. If Fei Jiuxiao was attracted by her, she would be in danger. Therefore, he looked at Shui Yunru with hostility. Young Master Fei, who is she? Fei Jiuxiao smiled. This is the little princess of the Shui Yun race, Shui Yunru. May I know why Shui Xianzi is here? I am here to look for Lin Gongzi. Lin Gongzi, I have already done what you asked me to do. Oh, is that so? Lin Xian nodded. This scene surprised the two people on the opposite side. They actually knew each other. Fei Jiuxiao was instantly jealous. What was with this kid's attitude? Shui Yunru had the same status as her, but she lowered her head in front of him. And this kid ignored her. Damn it, this kid was too arrogant. Unforgivable. Kuan-Yu was also stunned. In the next moment, he snorted coldly. So that's how it was. She was still wondering how Lin Xian came in. After all, only the chosen immortal race could enter this place. She could enter because of the chosen immortal race. And no matter how strong Lin Xian was in the universe, he couldn't enter. Now she understood. It turned out that he was a gigolo and found a fairy from the chosen immortal race. Did he not want Morong Ching anymore? Humph! She despised him in her heart. You go back first. I'll walk around. All right then. Shui Yunru left. Kuan-Yu snorted. Gigolo. Fei Jiuxiao also said that he couldn't be arrogant in front of him just because he had Shui Xianzi as his backing. The Shui Yun race couldn't compare to the Flying Feather race in terms of strength. Lin Xian shook his head. Stupid things. Your vision is too narrow. I didn't come here because of the Shui Yun race. The Shui Yun race begged me to come. It's their greatest honor that I can come here. As for the Yu Fei Feather race, so what if they have 3 sub-emperors? Lin Xian's eyes were filled with disdain. He turned around and left. Chapter 56-48. With that, Lin Xian left. Behind him, Kuan-Yu was stunned. What? The Shuiyun clan wanted it? What a joke. The Shuiyun clan was also a chosen immortal clan. Why would they beg Lin Xian? Impossible. She shook her head frantically. Fei Jiuxiao was filled with killing intent. How dare he look down on the Feathery clan? Damn it, damn it. When he came back to his senses, he found that the other party had already left. He gritted his teeth. Don't let me see you again, or I'll let you know what regret is. After Lin Xian returned to the courtyard, he found that the pills that Shui Yunru refined for him had already taken shape. Thus, he swallowed the pills and continued to cultivate. Moreover, he also sparred with Shui Yunru about immortal techniques. Now, he cultivated 2 immortal techniques, both of which were from the Shuiyun clan. The true water sword technique and the heavenly water art both used softness to conquer strength. The other was Liang Wushuang. When combined with Lin Xian's 9 Yang divine fire, it would be extremely terrifying. Young master, the gathering is about to start. Shui Yunru said. Okay, remind me when the time comes. Lin Xian continued to comprehend the immortal techniques. In the evening, Lin Xian and Shui Yunru left the heavenly courtyard. When they went out, they happened to meet the Divine Force Young Master. Beside the Divine Force Young Master wasn't Kuang Yiming, but another woman. Presumably, she was also from the chosen immortal clan. That woman leaned against the Divine Force Young Master, trying her best to curry favor. When the Divine Force Young Master saw Lin Xian and Shui Yunru, he narrowed his eyes. These two were actually together. It seemed that he had to remind Shui Yunru. He said, Fairy Shui, our chosen immortal clan has our own bloodline and nobility. You better not be deceived by others. Shui Yunru said, "You misunderstood. Lin Gongzi is my savior. Moreover, he's very important to our Shuiyun clan." "Savior? No wonder. I think he deliberately set this up to get close to you. Fairy, you better stay away from him." Lin Xian turned around. His expression darkened. "You've challenged me time and time again. Do you really think I won't make a move on you?" Even though the other party was just an ant, he didn't mind killing it with a slap if it was annoyed by him. The lady beside him laughed disdainfully. How dare he challenge the prince of Herculean strength? Was he courting death? The Herculean prince also snorted coldly. "Brat, can you take one of my punches? If you want to die, I can fulfill your wish." Lin Xian sneered. "Judging from your name, you have great strength. However, do you know what true strength is? Not to mention you, even if your grandfather was here, he wouldn't dare to compete with me in strength. Damn it, how dare you look down on my grandfather?" Prince Herculean Strength was completely enraged. He took a step forward and was about to attack. However, at that moment, people walked out from several courtyards in the distance. The courtyards there were for celestial titles, which were of a higher grade than theirs. Only quasi-emperors were qualified to stay here. A quasi-emperor had arrived. The young master of Herculean strength didn't make a move, and the surrounding people all quieted down. When he saw who it was, the prince of Herculean strength was elated. "Grandfather!" It was his grandfather. The bewitching lady beside him also sneered. She felt that Lin Xian was dead meat. Shui Yunru also became nervous. Only Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back, looking calm. He glanced into the distance. The person in front was Quasi-Emperor Batian. When he saw his grandson, he also frowned slightly. Didn't this brat say that he was going to cultivate at home? Why did he come here to play? However, before he could scold him, he saw Lin Xian. His expression suddenly changed. Taking a deep breath, he quickly came in front of Lin Xian. "Lin Gongzi, you really came." He was incomparably happy. Lin Xian nodded gently, looking calm, as if he didn't care at all. The surrounding people were stunned, especially the prince of Herculean strength. His eyes almost popped out. His grandfather, Quasi-Emperor Batian, was extremely powerful and could split open the sky. However, he actually bowed down to a quadruple champion. He wasn't dreaming, was he? The bewitching lady beside him was also scared silly. "Grandfather, who is he? He was challenging you just now." The prince of Herculean strength couldn't help but roar. Patriarch of Batian glory glared at him. The prince of Herculean strength was so scared that he trembled. At that moment, he felt that his soul was about to shatter. His grandfather was really angry with him. He didn't dare to speak anymore. At the same time, Batian Glory was extremely scared when he knew that his grandson had offended Lin Gongzi. He had also gone to the Moon Palace. Moreover, he was one of the 6 quasi-emperors who followed Lin Xian. The Yellow Spring, the Azure Bell, and the fragments of the supreme weapon were all fatal. A quasi-emperor couldn't fight against them alone. Even the 6 quasi-emperors were no match for them. However, Lin Xian did it. Lin Xian had single-handedly brought them out safely. This showed that Lin Xian's strength was extremely terrifying and unfathomable. The 6 quasi-emperors swore to respect him. So did Quasi-Emperor of Batian Glory. But now his grandson was recklessly challenging Lin Gongzi. He said, "Young master, please come here for a chat." He brought Lin Xian back to the courtyard of the immortal building. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission to the Prince of Herculean Strength. "Get over here." The Prince of Herculean Strength walked over obediently, looking extremely frightened. Shui Yunru was nervous. Is there going to be a fight? Lin Xian gave her a reassuring look. He had known Quasi-Emperor of Batian Glory for a long time. The Quasi-Emperor of Batian Glory would not dare to attack him. Therefore, he stepped into the courtyard of the immortal building. The immortal chi here was richer than in the immortal building. No wonder it was the residence of a quasi-emperor. After entering, the formation was activated and clouds shrouded. The quasi-emperor of Batian glory slapped the prince of Herculean strength in the face. Although the prince of Herculean strength was powerful, he was sent flying in the face of a quasi-emperor. Countless cracks appeared on his body. He was so frightened that he knelt on the ground. "Grandfather, please spare me." He was dumbfounded. What did he do? Why did he make his grandfather so angry? Patriarch of Batian glory shouted coldly and kowtowed to Lin Gongzi in apology. What? For him? The prince of Herculean strength was stunned. Did I hear wrongly? Quasi-emperor of Batian glory stomped on the prince of Herculean strength again and crushed his body. "Stupid thing. Lin Gongzi is my benefactor. How dare you be disrespectful to him? Do you want to die?" He quickly kowtowed and apologized. The prince of Herculean strength was really scared to tears. He had never seen his grandfather so angry. And what does benefactor mean? He didn't have time to think. He knelt in front of Lin Xian. "Lin Gongzi, I was wrong. Please be magnanimous. Please spare me." He knew that if he couldn't appease Lin Xian, his grandfather would beat him to death. Quasi-emperor of Batian glory also bowed, respectfully. "Lin Gongzi, my grandson, is insensible. He has offended you. Punish him as you wish. Even if you kill him, he deserves to die." Hearing this, the prince of Herculean strength was even more frightened. "Is my grandfather going to give up on me? Who is this young man in front of me that made my grandfather so respectful?" Chapter 56-49. Lin Xian shook his head when he saw how scared the young master of strength was. "Get up! Hurry up and thank Lin Gongzi." Patriarch of Empyrean glory bellowed. The young master of strength kept kowtowing. "Thank you, Lin Gongzi. Thank you, Lin Gongzi." He knew that he had just taken a trip to the gates of hell. "Young master, I've just received news that someone is coming from the depths of the deity ground. So we're going to discuss it." The depths of the deity ground were mysterious even to the chosen immortal clan. They could not afford to provoke them. So they were extremely cautious. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. "Go. Give me a detailed report on this information when the time comes." "Don't worry, young master." Quasi-emperor of Empyrean glory sent Lin Xian out with great respect. At the same time, he said, "Kid, you're not allowed to be disrespectful to Lin Gongzi. Treat him like you're seeing me. Do you understand?" The young master of strength nodded. He was really scared to death just now. "Hurry up and go. As long as you follow Lin Gongzi and he can give you a few pointers, you'll have a meteoric rise in your life." Although he did not know who Lin Xian was, the young master of strength believed in his grandfather's words. So he quickly ran out to look for Lin Xian. Even if he had to become Lin Xian's underling, he would accept it. Outside, Shui Yunru was still waiting. When he saw Lin Xian come out, he heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they did not fight. But even if they did, he did not think that Lin Xian would be defeated. The bewitching woman was indeed stunned. It was really a miracle that this guy came out unscathed. At this time, the young master of strength ran out again, which stunned everyone. Lin Xian was also stunned. After coming out, the young master of strength said, "Lin Gongzi, please let me follow you. I'm willing to be your slave." Hearing this, the bewitching woman went crazy. "Is this really the young master of strength I know?" she shouted. "Young master, are you confused? What's so great about this brat?" Prince Herculean strength sent him flying with a slap. "Scram, don't let me see you again." The bewitching woman covered her face and left in tears. Shui Yunru narrowed her eyes. She knew that Lin Xian must have displayed his true strength and scared the Herculean young noble. You want to follow me? You don't have the right. Lin Xian shook his head and turned to leave. The Herculean prince didn't dare to get angry. Even if he couldn't chase after them, he had to stay by their side. That was a chance for him to make a meteoric rise. Therefore, he followed them all the way. Shui Yunru asked, what should they do? Lin Xian said that he didn't need to care about him and just let him stay by his side. This guy had only been arrogant for a while before. Now that he had beaten him up a little, he would be able to use him in the future. He said, do you know what the purpose of the party is? The Prince of Divine Force was the first to speak. Other than hearing that someone had come from the depths of the deity ground, there was another matter. The various chosen immortal clans had recently explored some sealed lands and obtained some treasures. There were some that they couldn't use, so they wanted to exchange or auction them. It could be considered a small exchange. Lin Xian was also shocked. So, there was such a thing. He could see if there was anything useful. Prince, I'll bring you there. The Prince of Divine Force will lead the way. The small exchange was also held in Ascending Heaven Tower. Ascending Heaven Tower, other than accommodation, had many courtyards. Some were developed for cultivation, while others were used for such small exchanges. The third floor of Ascending Heaven Tower, there were already many people here. These people were all here to participate in the exchange. They all had some treasures in their hands. They were here to represent their families. They wanted to see if they could exchange them for something useful. For example, Kuang Yiming and the others were here too. When Kuang Yiming saw that Lin Xian was still with Shui Yunru, his eyes were filled with killing intent. Even Jiu Man frowned. What was going on? Was Sister Ro still insensible? However, when he saw the Prince of Divine Force standing beside Lin Xian, he was stunned. Didn't the Prince of Divine Force look down on Lin Xian previously? Why was he acting like a grandson now? What happened? Even the Prince of Divine Force was bewitched. Kuang Yiming was also stunned. He walked over and said, Brother Divine Force, why are you so nice to this kid? Did he bribe you? You even said that he has some status. Do you want me to make a move on him and teach him a lesson? The Prince of Divine Force's face darkened. As a friend, let me remind you out of goodwill. Never go against Lin Gongzi. Otherwise, you'll end up in a terrible state. Kuang Yiming was stunned. It couldn't be. Just yesterday, the Prince of Divine Force was still unhappy with Lin Xian and even wanted to teach him a lesson. Why was he so submissive today? What happened? When he asked, the Prince of Divine Force shook his head. He couldn't say. As a friend, I can only remind you up to this point. After speaking, he left with Lin Xian again. Kuang Yiming snorted coldly. Humph, what Prince of Divine Force? He's just a coward. If you don't dare to make a move, I'll find an opportunity. I'll definitely make this kid kneel at my feet. After entering, it was like a paradise. There were fake mountains, flowing water, pavilions, and even some palaces. Everything was there. There were spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits everywhere. There were also some spiritual beasts running around and red-crowned cranes dancing in the air. There was a rainbow in the sky, and the chi of Tao surrounded it. It was definitely a good place. At this moment, there were already many people sitting in the pavilions. In the middle was a lake. In the middle of the lake, there was a spirit boat. The spirit boat was very big, but there was no one on it. Perhaps the auction would be held inside. There were many people sitting around the lake. The arrival of Lin Xian and the rest attracted many people's attention, especially Shui Yunru and the Prince of Divine Force. They were both famous geniuses of the younger generation, so they all greeted them. However, no one paid attention to Lin Xian because they didn't know Lin Xian. They also didn't sense any terrifying aura from Lin Xian. At this moment, in the Lotus Pavilion far away, a figure frowned. This kid still came. It was Kuan Yu. He didn't expect Lin Xian to still dare to stay here. He had already offended Fei Jiuxiao. Shouldn't he run away? Fei Jiuxiao also snorted coldly. When the gathering ends later, I'll let him know what it means to live a life worse than death. A biting, cold, murderous intent appeared in his eyes. However, he didn't make a move because more and more geniuses had arrived. They were all from the chosen immortal tribe. There were people from the Flying Feather tribe, the Raging Fire tribe, the Mandala tribe, the Blood tribe, and so on. There were a lot of them. These people also knew each other and greeted each other. In addition, there were also some people such as Koinyu who were from the outside world. However, they were brought in because they had connections with the chosen immortal tribe. At this moment, someone exclaimed, Princess Jimon had arrived. They saw a beautiful figure walk in. Princess Jimon could be said to be half the owner of Ascending Heaven Tower. Naturally, they didn't dare to slight her. Many people stood up and greeted her with a smile. Princess Jimon, like a peerless goddess, walked over under the envious gazes of countless people. Chapter 5650. Princess Jilman was escorted to the center of the lake. She came to the spirit boat and said, Everyone, let's begin. Soon, someone went up and took out a treasure. It was a pagoda made of stone. It was mysterious, but no one knew what it was used for. Although it wasn't useful, its defense level was so high that even a quasi-emperor couldn't break it. Therefore, it was very terrifying. Are there any other fellow Taoists interested? It can only be exchanged with other things of equal value. As soon as he said that, the others were also surprised. A woman said, Can we give it a try? Sure. The man waved his hand and sent the stone pagoda into the air. The surrounding people made their moves one after another, creating a terrifying rumbling sound. However, they discovered that the stone pagoda didn't shatter. But so far, that was the only effect they found. Moreover, this stone pagoda couldn't be enlarged. If it could be enlarged into a mountain, then they could use it as a shield to protect. This was an existence that was not weaker than a quasi-emperor's weapon. But now that it couldn't be enlarged and was only the size of a palm, what could it defend against? More importantly, they didn't find anything else. Therefore, these people discussed animatedly, and no one was willing to make a move. Seeing this scene, the man sighed. No one wanted it? Actually, he wasn't surprised because his family had studied this thing for a long time and finally found that it was really useless, so he took it out. However, there was a figure in the crowd who frowned. It was Lin Xian. Lin Xian looked at the stone pagoda. He was also curious. DeLong said, It's actually this thing. Do you know? Lin Xian was surprised. He knew that he had seen a 9-story pagoda before. Although this one only had 5 stories, it should have similar effects. This stone pagoda couldn't be enlarged because these people didn't have a way to control it. Moreover, it couldn't be enlarged, but people could enter. After entering, they would be able to control it and come out. What's the use? Lin Xian asked. It was equivalent to a small world. The inside of the stone pagoda was a space that could be used to cultivate. It could be used as a storage space and could even be used as a flying weapon. This thing was very hard, and ordinary quasi-emperors couldn't break it. Lin Xian was surprised. Although he couldn't use it, it didn't mean that others couldn't. He was prepared to buy it and give it to Qingcheng. Hence, he was prepared to exchange. Seeing that there was no one around, the man in front prepared to leave. At this moment, Lin Xian said, Wait, I'm willing to trade. When these words were spoken, countless people were in an uproar. Did someone recognize what kind of treasure it was? The surrounding people all turned their heads to look. When they saw that it was Lin Xian, they were all surprised. Who was this person? Kuang Yiming, Fei Jiuxiao, and the rest snorted coldly. It was this brat. Could this kid afford it? Furthermore, what kind of insight did this brat have? Even they didn't discover any treasures. So how could he? These people sneered, not believing him. Lin Xian said, That's right, I'm willing to trade. The short-haired man said, Although I don't know what this treasure is, the thing I want to exchange is not ordinary. I want to see what you have to offer. Lin Xian had too many treasures in his hands. Of course, he did not plan to give them to the other party. Previously, he had attacked so many clans and sections. Among them, the 10,000 Dragon Court had been attacked by him. Therefore, he took out a treasure from the 1,000-wave nest to exchange with the other party. It was a bottle, but it had been in the 1,000 Dragon Court for too long, so it contained a very strong Tao of dragon aura. How about this? Lin Xian casually took out one and asked. The short-haired man's pupils constricted. The others exclaimed, "The power of the Tao of Dragon. So terrifying. This must be something from the dragon race. This guy actually has it. Is he from the dragon race? Humph, it doesn't look like it. He must have gotten it by chance." Discussions sounded out one after another. The short-haired man said, "All right, I'll trade with you. The Tao of Dragon on it was very strong. She could take it back to cultivate or let her family study it. Compared to this stone pagoda, it was more valuable to them. So they exchanged it." After the exchange, the short-haired man asked, "Brother, do you know how to use this thing?" Lin Xian said, "I don't know yet. Maybe I'll find out after some research." With that said, the short-haired man was disappointed. He wanted to open his eyes. What was this thing? The others shook their heads and sighed. This kid was so dumb to exchange for something unknown. Kuang Yiming, Fei Jiuxiao, and the others scoffed coldly. How would they know that Lin Xian could totally control the stone pagoda? When the time came, it would be a really amazing treasure. After giving it to Qingcheng, she wouldn't have to use extreme weapons to defend herself when she cultivated or rested. Just the stone pagoda would be really safe. Next, they continued. Some people took out swords, some took out techniques, and started to trade. The scene became really lively. Lin Xian didn't do anything. He didn't care about the remaining things, or rather, they were useless to him. He was looking forward to them taking out celestial techniques, but no one took them out. Lin Xian knew that these families cultivated in the celestial land. Celestial techniques were really important to them, and no one was willing to take them out. At this moment, someone else went up. It was a girl. She had white hair. After she went up, she said, "I have a top-secret technique." The moment she said that, the surrounding people were shocked. She had a top-secret technique. However, some of the 4 crown kings shook their heads. If they had a top-secret technique, they would have cultivated it long ago. Why would they take it out? This top-secret technique was either incomplete or had other flaws. The others nodded. The white-haired girl said, "It is indeed complete. However, it isn't a celestial technique." The moment she said that, everyone lost interest. If it wasn't a celestial technique, what did they want it for? They knew that other than celestial techniques, there was something called mystic techniques. However, they could only use 70% of their power. They might as well learn a celestial technique. Even if it wasn't a celestial technique, they wouldn't learn a mystic technique. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Oh, a mystic technique? He didn't expect to find a mystic technique in the celestial land. This was really surprising. However, looking at the expressions of the surrounding people, he knew that mystic techniques weren't common here. Even if there were, no one would want to cultivate it. However, he was really interested. He asked, "What mystic technique is it?" The white-haired girl didn't have much hope at first. However, when she saw someone speak, she looked over. When she saw that it was Lin Xian, she was overjoyed. Lin Xian had used his Tao of Dragon Aura to exchange for an unknown treasure. Clearly, he had a lot of treasures. Perhaps he could exchange for it. She said, "Sir, my top secret sword technique is called 10,000 Swords Return to Origin. It's a top secret mystic technique. Are you interested?" 10,000 Swords Return to Origin. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. It was perfect for him. Chapter 56-51. I'll trade with you Lin Xian took out another item from the dragon race to trade with the other party. The surrounding people were all stunned. Heavens! Another treasure from the dragon race. What a terrifying dragon Dao aura. How does this kid have so many treasures from the dragon race? Could it be that he found the remains of the dragon race? Countless voices of Dao discussion sounded. Some of them stared at Lin Xian suspiciously. Some of them even had power in their eyes. It seems that if we suppress this kid, we might be able to obtain the treasures of the dragon race. Some people had such thoughts. Fei Juxiao, Kuang Yiming, and the others also snorted coldly, their faces ashen. This kid is in the limelight again. But soon, they sneered. So, what if he has a peerless sword technique? It's a divine ability. Immortal Dao cultivators don't know how to cultivate it. Even if it's powerful, Kuang Yiming sneered. An ant will always be an ant. Trying to use this method to improve his strength? What a joke. I'll let him know how terrifying my immortal Dao saber is. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Lin Xian, on the other hand, took the ancestral returning swords. A smile appeared on his face. He secretly condensed a clone and let the clone enter the sword world to observe and learn. This was the return of 10,000 swords. Lin Xian's real body was still sitting in the pavilion, silently waiting for the next exchange. Lin Xian's side was bustling. On the other side, the villa was also very lively. It was on the 7th floor of the Ascending Heaven Tower. The aura of this villa was even more majestic and filled with immortal qi. It was far superior to the 3rd floor. The people sitting here were not young people, but a group of experts. The real experts were all quasi-emperors. If they were outside, they would be like patriarchs even in the chosen immortal race. Now that so many patriarchs were gathered, what were they going to do? Kaiser Blood, Quasi-Emperor Mandela, Quasi-Emperor Batian, and the others were all here. They were extremely nervous. Mandela said, "Is he not here yet?" The blood race also frowned. "He's been waiting for so long. Isn't he looking down on us too much?" Quasi-Emperor Flying Fish also sighed. "There's nothing we can do. He came from the depths of the deity ground. We are no match for him. It was better to wait patiently." As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the villa was opened. Then a loud voice sounded. "Everyone, you've been waiting for a long time. Come on." Countless people stood up and looked ahead. They wanted to see how amazing the person they were waiting for was. They only knew that the other party came from the depths of the celestial land, but they didn't know who the other party was. When these experts gathered their heads and looked ahead, they were stunned. A young man walked over from the front. He walked with a majestic gait and had an extraordinary bearing, but he was too young. He was about the same age as the grandsons in their family. Such a person had made them wait for such a long time. Immediately, some of the boundary emperors were enraged and dissatisfied. Originally, they thought that it would be a horrifying quasi-emperor that they could only look up to. Now that he was just a young man, how could they be willing to lower their heads? The man who came had silver hair and wore silver battle armor. Beside him was an old man who looked like an old servant. His feet were half a meter above the ground, and he was floating just like that. He didn't say anything. He didn't even raise his head. "How should I address you?" Ancestor Fei Yu walked over and asked with a smile. In front, the man in silver armor also smiled. "Let me introduce myself. I come from the depths of the celestial land, the Heavenly Thunder Clan. My name is Tianji." Obviously, the surrounding chosen immortal clan had never heard of him, because they were not qualified to enter the depths of the celestial land. However, they knew that any family that came out of the depths of the celestial land could defeat them. In their opinion, it should be a top-level boundary emperor, not a young man in front of them. "So it's young Master Tianji. Please have a seat." Some of the boundary emperors were more relaxed and invited him over. Young Master Tianji stood there with his hands behind his back. He said in a deep voice, "There's no need for a seat. I'm here today to inform you of something. Go back to your family and make preparations. In a month, I'll take away half of your family's power." What? The surrounding boundary emperors were stunned. Take away half of their family's power? Why? Boundary Emperor Batian was furious. The blood race also sneered. "Kid, are you out of your mind? That's the power that our family has accumulated over countless years. Why should we give it to you?" The other boundary emperors also sneered. They felt that this young man was too arrogant. So what if he came from the depths of the celestial land? They could give him face, but they wouldn't give him half of their resources. Tianji narrowed his eyes and laughed. "Why? Because of my power." With that, he took a step forward and punched the Lord of the Blood Race. The Blood Race shouted angrily, "You're courting death." The other party attacked him. Was he looking down on him? He punched out a blood sea that covered the sky. It turned into a blood claw that covered the sky. The blood aura on it became more and more terrifying. The entire space was shattered. Boom! An earth-shattering sound was heard. The blood sea in the sky shattered, and the Lord of the Blood flew out. His body was instantly penetrated, and he fell into the distance. Was the blood race defeated? The surrounding boundary emperors were stunned. Kaiser Blood also screamed and vomited blood. He found that not only was he defeated, but the punch had also severely injured him. The blood and power in his body trembled. He couldn't mobilize his power for a while. Why? After injuring the blood race with one punch, Tianji sneered. "Now, do you know what Tao is based on?" Suddenly, he slashed at the Flying Feather Patriarch with his fingers like a sword. The Flying Feather Patriarch shouted angrily, "How dare you look down on me?" The Flying Feather Patriarch roared. Countless feathers appeared on the white wings on his back. They condensed into an ancient palm and slapped forward. It was like a raging wave hitting the shore, destroying everything. However, the Flying Feather Patriarch was cut in half by the sword. Blood and feathers splattered everywhere. The screams made people's scalps tingle. The surrounding boundary emperors were also stunned when they saw this. This person was so powerful. These were all accurate. How could the other party be defeated so easily with just a raise of his hand? How terrifying was this person's strength? Tianji retracted 2 fingers and sneered again. Now you know why? Fear. Endless fear. They found that this expert from the depths of the celestial land was not only arrogant, but also very powerful. You're powerful, but you can't make so many patriarchs bow to you alone. The Empyrean Patriarch walked out. Yes, that's right. On the other side, Boundary Emperor Mandela and Boundary Emperor Ju Hai. The surrounding boundary emperors all attacked. A total of 8 boundary emperors walked out. They looked forward and said coldly, "Can you fight against the 8 of us together?" Chapter 56-52. Young man, go back. Although you're powerful and the quasi-emperors are no match for you, you can't swallow so many of our families at once. Go back and ask someone more powerful to negotiate with us. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory said in a deep voice. Quasi-Emperor Mandela also said, "Go, or don't blame us for attacking. You think you can do that?" Tianji's face darkened. "How dare you threaten me? You all deserve to die." As soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed under his feet, and he disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Quasi-Emperor Mandela. He used his fingers like a sword and slashed down. Quasi-Emperor Mandela saw how terrifying this sword was and did not dare to be careless. In the forest of life, he roared angrily, unleashing an endless forest that blotted out the sky and covered the earth in front of him. It seemed to have turned into a world. At the same time, the quasi-emperors around him were also angry. How dare you attack? Since you want to suppress him, let's teach him a lesson. Quasi-Emperor of Empyrean glory threw a punch with terrifying power. Quasi-Emperor of Frenzied Blade slashed with his blade, and the other Quasi-Emperors also performed immortal techniques. Boom, boom, boom. The place where Tianji was instantly shattered and turned into a terrifying black hole that swallowed the sky and earth. The Quasi-Emperors' faces turned cold. You asked for it. Don't blame us. We'll show you how powerful we are. Is this guy dead? Some Quasi-Emperors frowned. If we kill him, we'll be in big trouble. Mandela said, no, everyone is controlling their power. He won't die. But he will definitely be injured. Suppress him and send him away. As soon as she finished speaking, the black hole in front of them slowly disappeared, and a figure walked out. Tianji smiled, and the silver armor on his body released electric arcs. He came out unscathed. How is that possible? The Quasi-Emperors around him were stunned. You're not injured? That's impossible. Although they controlled their power and did not kill him, they would definitely injure him. But now he was unscathed. What's going on? Did he block it? It's unbelievable. Tianji sneered. Stupid things. You know nothing about the power in the depths of the deity ground. Let me tell you what a real immortal technique is. Heaven's Fate waved his hand. An endless lightning condensed in his palm. Immortal technique, heavenly thunder break. Xiao Qin shouted, and the heavenly lightning in his hand flew out. It turned into a bolt of lightning and struck the 8 Quasi-Emperors. Then, the thunderbolt suddenly split open. The terrifying and destructive power caused the 8 Quasi-Emperors to suffer an intense impact. Not good, quickly defend. The 8 boundary emperors tried to fight back, but they were still sent flying in an instant, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were penetrated by the lightning. Damn it. How could this be? How could he be so strong? Quasi-Emperor Mandala's face was filled with despair. Quasi-Emperor Flying Fish even had the heart to die. Quasi-Emperor Frenzied Blade was also horrified. The 8 of them were prepared to attack together, but they couldn't do anything to the other party. Instead, they were injured by the other party with a single move. How many crowns was this? 6 crown king? Or was it 7 crown champion? They didn't dare to think any further. Even a young man from the depths of the deity ground had such strength. How terrifying were those old monsters? No wonder the other party called them ants. In front of such absolute power, they were indeed ants. Heaven's Fate retracted his palm, terrifying lightning flashing in his eyes. He snorted coldly. Originally, I didn't want to attack and wanted to have a good talk with you. In the end, you didn't know what was good for you and forced me to attack. Now, you've tasted the pain. This is just the beginning. If you dare to resist again, I'll destroy your astral soul. There was a biting cold, killing intent in his voice that made one's soul tremble. Remember, in a month I'll collect half of the resources from your clans. If anyone doesn't complete the task, don't blame me for destroying them, including their clans. You, too arrogant. Although you defeated us, do you want to fight against our clans? Quasi-Emperor Batian roared. Quasi-Emperor Frenzied Blade was also unconvinced. I'll give you one last warning. Heaven's Fate's face also darkened. He said, do you think the Heavenly Thunder Tribe wants your resources? How ridiculous. This time, I'm here on the orders of the Heavenly King. If you resist me, you'll be going against the Heavenly King. What's the result? Think about it yourselves. Remember, you only have a month. Heaven's Fate turned around and said to the old servant behind him, stay here and keep an eye on them. Inform me in a month. Yes, the old servant bowed deeply. Heaven's Fate turned into a streak of flowing light and disappeared. On the other hand, the Quasi-Emperors lying on the ground were shocked. What? He was here on the orders of the Heavenly King? They might not have heard of the Heavenly Thunder Tribe, but the name of the heavenly king was well known. This was because the heavenly king was the supreme overlord of the deity ground. Even in the depths of the deity ground, it was extremely terrifying. No one dared to challenge the heavenly king. The heavenly king was high and mighty. Whoever dared to challenge, it would end up in a fate worse than death. This was the consensus of everyone in the deity ground. However, the heavenly king did not appear now because of the book of heavenly Tao in the sky. Could it be that the heavenly king was about to break the seal? No, it should not have broken the seal. Another quasi-emperor laughed bitterly. The clans of the great emperors in the outer universe worked together to create the book of heavenly Tao to seal the heavenly king. If the heavenly king wants to break the seal and come out quickly, it needs external forces. Therefore, he set his sights on us. You're saying that this is a battle between the heavenly king and the outer universe, but we're involved? Damn it. Why are we so unlucky? Some people roared. Aren't the people in the outer universe ants? How dare they fight against others? No, don't underestimate the outer universe. There were many great emperors in the outer universe. They were definitely qualified to challenge the heavenly king. But now, let's think about our own problems. Are we really going to give him half of the resources? What can we do if we don't? These people were unwilling, but they were afraid of the heavenly king's anger. At this moment, Kaiser Blood got up. He seemed to have thought of something. Lin Gongzi. Let's look for Lin Gongzi. He might be able to protect us. Yes, Lin Gongzi might have a way. Quasi-Emperor Mandala's eyes lit up. The other quasi-emperors were the same. Let's go. Lin Gongzi should be participating in the exchange on the 3rd level. Let's go look for him. These quasi-emperors quickly rushed out of the manor. In the void, the old servant of the heavenly thunder tribe sneered. He looked up and stared at the departing quasi-emperors. He did not stop them. No matter who they were, they would not be able to fight against them. So, these quasi-emperors' efforts were futile. This guy is following us. When the quasi-emperors sensed this aura, they frowned. They realized that the old servant had been following them like a shadow. Ignore him. Let's hurry to the 3rd level. These quasi-emperors rushed to the 3rd level. On the 3rd level, the exchange for the younger generation was still in progress. Suddenly, the array formation was torn open. Someone rushed in. Who is it? They shouted angrily. Princess Juman frowned, but when they saw who it was, they were stunned. Chapter 56-53. The young geniuses on the 3rd level were all stunned by the group of people who came in. They found that it was a group of quasi-emperors who had blood on them, and their auras were unstable. Are they all injured? Heavens, who could injure these quasi-emperors? What happened? Fei, Zhu Xiao, Kuang Yiming, and the others also exclaimed. Grandpa, what happened to you? Ancestor! The other people also cried out in alarm. They all rushed over, their faces full of worry. The quasi-emperors shouted angrily and made way. The geniuses were shocked, and several quasi-emperors searched in the air. What are these people looking for? The geniuses below were all stunned. Suddenly, quasi-emperor Frenzied Blade's eyes lit up, and he rushed toward Lin Xian. The blood race and the others also quickly followed. They were here for that kid. They all looked at Lin Xian. Kuang Yiming was overjoyed. Great. Is my grandpa going to attack this kid? It would be best to kill him with one slap to relieve the hatred in my heart. However, he was scared out of his wits in the next moment, and he almost knelt on the ground. His grandpa, Quasi-Emperor Frenzied Blade, came in front of Lin Xian and bowed deeply. Lin Gongzi, please save us. Kuang Yiming was thunderstruck. Wow, what's going on? My grandpa, a quasi-emperor, and the ancestor of the Frenzied Blade family, is bowing to a young man? Is this a joke? The people around were also stunned. What's wrong with Frenzied Blade? Is he hallucinating because he was injured? However, they found that it was not over. After Quasi-Emperor Frenzied Blade, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, Kaiser Blood, and Quasi-Emperor Mandala all bowed. Lin Gongzi, please save us. Countless people were in an uproar. Zhu Long, Fei Zhu Xiao, and the others narrowed their eyes. Kuan Yu was even more shocked. She had a bad feeling in her heart, because he had seen such a scene before. Back when they were in the outer universe, the patriarchs and grand elders of the imperial clans had all bowed to Lin Xian with great respect. He thought that the situation would change after he came to the deity ground. He did not expect that the quasi-emperors in the deity ground would also bow to Lin Xian. Is Lin Wudi's glory in the deity ground? Kuan almost cried when he thought of how many great emperor clans and remote antiquity clans were humiliated by Lin Xian alone. Is this young man? Quasi-Emperor Fei Yu, Quasi-Emperor Zhu Hai, and the others also frowned. They had heard from Kaiser Blood, and the others that there was hope, so they followed along. But they did not expect this young man was a young man. Another young man. Did this young man also come from the depths of the deity ground? Grandpa, what's going on? Fei Zhixiao walked out and said quickly, why are they so in this way? Hearing this, Quasi-Emperor Fei Yu frowned. You know him? Fei Zhixiao nodded. Come here. He pulled Kuan Yu to his side. He said, Grandpa, this is a new friend I made. He's from a great emperor's clan in the outer universe. He knew this brat. He said that this brat was someone from the small universe outside. People like that are trash. Why should we revere them? People from the outside universe? Not from the deity grounds. Quasi-Emperor Fei Yu frowned. The Rakshasa Quasi-Emperor and the others looked gloomy. Kaiser Blood and the others were bowing to an ant from the outside universe. What kind of joke was this? However, Kaiser Blood and the others were so respectful. They knew that Lin Xian was from the outside universe. But so what? They had seen Lin Xian's strength. He was far more powerful than them. If there was anyone who could compete with the celestial pole, it could only be Lin Xian. Therefore, they lowered their heads even more. Please save us, young master. Lin Xian raised his head to look at these quasi-emperors and frowned deeply. He had noticed the quasi-emperors from the moment they came in. These quasi-emperors were all injured, and their injuries were very serious. Their bodies were pierced by lightning, and a violent and destructive aura was still spreading. Who injured you? The Blood Clan member hurriedly told him what had happened. Please save us, young master. We will be grateful. The others also exclaimed, what? A young man defeated 8 quasi-emperors? And he did it so easily. Are we dreaming? Are the people from the deity ground so terrifying? Is our family doomed? These people were in despair. Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. He had heard the quasi-emperors mention the people from the deity ground. He had thought that after the exchange, he would look for the quasi-emperors and see if there was any news. However, the situation was completely out of his expectation. The people from the deity ground were here to collect resources under the orders of the Otherworld Heavenly King. What was their purpose? Lin Xian knew that the Otherworld Heavenly King was trying to break the seal and come out in advance. Lin Xian would never allow it. He did not expect to meet the people from the Otherworld Heavenly King so soon. Lin Xian's face turned cold. He said, Don't worry. I will protect your family. Thank you, Lin Gongzi, the Blood Race, and the other quasi-emperors. They were as happy as children. Around them, Quasi-Emperor Fei Yu and the Rakshasa Quasi-Emperor frowned. Are you really going to listen to this kid? After all, if he can't withstand it, then what awaits the 6 great clans is annihilation. Are you willing to bet the fate of your family? Blood Sea said, Brother Fei Yu, you'd better hurry up and pay a visit to Lin Gongzi. Quasi-Emperor Mandala also said, Yes, hurry up and beg Lin Gongzi. Lin Gongzi will help you. Beg him? The Rakshasa quasi-emperor also frowned. I think you are scared out of your wits. Don't think that just because the celestial pole is powerful, the other young people are powerful. In my eyes, he is just an ordinary quadruple crown winner, Quasi-Emperor Mandala, and the others shook their heads. If they did not believe it, so be it. They did not say anything. If they angered Lin Xian, they would be in trouble too. Lin Xian glanced at these quasi-emperors. Oh, are you challenging me? The Rakshasa quasi-emperor said coldly. Kid, don't play tricks. Do you think you can trick us just because you can trick them? You can't. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, if he continues to play tricks on us, we will destroy your soul. Lin Xian smiled. Originally, I wanted to give you a chance and protect you. However, you are too reckless. Since this is the case, when the time comes you want me to help you and beg me to protect you, I will make you kneel and beg me, and hand over 1/3 of your family's resources. Kneel and beg you? Ha 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 ha. Quasi-Emperor Fei, you snorted. This kid must be crazy. I will deal with him first. Fei Jiuxiao was also excited. Kid, you dare to offend my grandfather? You can wait for your death. Quasi-Emperor Fei, you wanted to attack, but Kaiser Blood walked out. You dare to be rude to Lin Gongzi? Don't blame me for not being polite. You want to help him. Quasi-Emperor Fei, you frowned. The Rakshasa quasi-emperor and the others also had cold expressions. What is so good about this kid? The 6 quasi-emperors are actually so protective of him. At this moment, another old man flew over from afar. 6 great families, you are reckless. Are you challenging the celestial pole, young master? Chapter 56-54. Who is this person? Looking at the old man, who just came out, the surrounding people were puzzled. Does this old man dare to challenge those quasi-emperors? The surrounding quasi-emperors also frowned deeply. This old man was really like a lingering spirit that refused to leave. Patriarch of Empyrean glory walked out and snorted. Young Master Tianji, we can't beat you, but you're just a servant. How dare you be so arrogant in front of us? So you're just a servant. How dare a servant be so arrogant? The surrounding people also sneered. Young Master of Divine Force also snorted. Just wait and see. My grandfather will definitely teach him a lesson. The old servant in front of him looked cold. How dare you challenge our heavenly Thunder Clan? You don't deserve to live. His voice turned into a murderous force that rushed forward. In the next moment, endless storms and thunderbolts gathered under the old servant's feet, and he moved at extreme speed. In a flash, he charged toward Quasi-Emperor of Empyrean glory. Quasi-Emperor of Empyrean glory snorted. You're courting death. He couldn't defeat young Master Tianji, but he could defeat this old man. Therefore, he didn't hold back and punched out. The great desolation power in his body was like an ancient mountain. It was really too powerful. The surrounding people were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground. No wonder he's Patriarch of Empyrean glory. With a loud boom, the area in front of him was completely obliterated. Countless large cracks spread in all directions. When Koinyu saw this, her beautiful eyes widened. This is the deity ground. How terrifying is it to create cracks here? One could imagine how terrifying Quasi-Emperor of Empyrean glory was. That old servant should be dead. Humph! He still dares to follow us. He's really courting death. The surrounding people sneered. The black hole in the sky slowly disappeared. However, at this moment, a figure appeared in the void. It was an old man floating in the air. His face was cold, and his eyes were full of disdain. How is this possible? He's still alive. The surrounding people's pupils shrank when they saw this. Even their souls trembled. He's still alive after being hit by such a terrifying punch. Who exactly is this old man? patriarch of Empyrean Glory's pupils also shrank. Impossible! He roared at the sky. He was well aware of how powerful he was. Damn it, I don't believe it. He punched out again. You chosen immortal clans are pitifully weak. Let me show you what a true immortal technique is. The old servant raised his hand. Terrifying lightning flickered between his 5 fingers. Immortal technique, rushing thunder palm. He struck out with his palm. Between heaven and earth, the vast lightning formed the palm of a god and pressed down. Everyone who felt this power was in disbelief. Was this really just a servant? The power he unleashed. Why did it feel even more terrifying than a quasi-emperor? The patriarch of Empyrean Glory bellowed at the sky. He was sent flying in an instant as he fought against Yifuqian. No, Grandpa! Prince Herculean's strength exclaimed. The others were also stunned. Had the quasi-emperor been defeated? They saw quasi-emperor Batian fall to the ground, his body charred black. His body was penetrated, and his internal organs were all shattered. That one punch was terrifying. The old servant sneered. Although I am young Master Tianji's servant, I am not someone you can compare to. Today, since you dared to go against young Master Tianji, there's no need for you to live. Extremely frightening lightning flashed in his eyes. In the next moment, he formed a lightning claw, which seemed to have crossed the ancient time and space, and fiercely slapped forward. Oh no! The surrounding people cried out in alarm. The patriarch of Empyrean Glory's expression also changed. He could not block this attack at all. Was he going to die? There was a boom. The lightning palm covered the sky and enveloped the patriarch of Empyrean Glory. Prince Herculean's strength wanted to go forward, but he was sent flying by the remaining power of the energy. The other quasi-emperors were also horrified. It was not that they did not want to help, but the power of the lightning was too fast. It was so fast that they could not react. Was the patriarch of Empyrean Glory going to be killed? An ant that could not withstand a single blow. The old servant sneered. In the next moment, he looked at the other quasi-emperors. Who else wanted to die? Step forward. For a moment, the scene was terrifyingly quiet. No one dared to resist. Their eyes were filled with despair. However, at this moment, a cough was heard. At the same time, someone exclaimed, "I'm not dead." Prince Herculean's strength turned his head at the sound. "Grandpa!" He cried out in alarm. The other quasi-emperors also turned their heads to look. They were stunned. Quasi-emperor of Empyrean Glory is not dead. That's great. The old servant furrowed his brows tightly. It's impossible. Given his strength, how could he have dodged my attack? In the next moment, he saw that in addition to quasi-emperor of Empyrean Glory, there was a young man beside him. He had a handsome face and his hands were behind his back. Who is this guy? The patriarch of Empyrean Glory kept thanking Lin Gongzi for saving his life. It turned out that when he was about to die, a ray of light flashed by and saved him at an extremely fast speed. It was Lin Xian who had saved him. It turned out that Lin Gongzi had saved him. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others were also delighted. The old servant frowned. "Young man, who are you? Do you dare to fight against the Heavenly Thunder Tribe? Get out of here, and I'll spare your life." Heavenly Thunder Tribe. I've never heard of it. Lin Xian shook his head. Stupid thing. We come from the depths of the deity ground. This time, my young master came here on the orders of Bai, and do you dare to fight against Baian? His words made the scalps of the surrounding people tingle. This person came from the depths of the deity ground. No wonder he was so powerful and could injure a quasi-emperor with one palm. The depths of the deity ground were forbidden to them. What do you think? Are you afraid now? The old servant laughed complacently when he saw the frightened expressions of the people around him. Lin Xian's face darkened. I came here on the orders of Baiyan. In that case, you can die. His eyes were filled with a piercing killing intent. Lin Xian would not show any mercy, since this person was related to Bai, and what? You want to kill me? You're just a quadruple crown champion. The old servant was even more disdainful. Even a quasi-emperor was no match for him, let alone a quadruple crown champion. This young man must be out of his mind. The others were also puzzled, such as the young princes, Fei Jiuxiao, Kuang Yiming, and the others. They did not know why the quasi-emperor was so respectful to Lin Xian. However, it was absolutely impossible for Lin Xian to fight against the old servant with his strength. Jiu Chu also shook her head. What an arrogant kid. Although her status was the noblest compared to this old servant, she was still thousands of miles away. The old servant in front was also angry. Kid, you may be a little ant, but since you dare to block my way, I can only trample you to death. He raised his palm again. Immortal technique, Thunder Palm. He blasted it forward. It carried a terrifying power. This immortal technique was even more powerful and terrifying than the immortal technique of the chosen immortal clan. Chapter 56-55. A terrifying destructive force swept out in all directions. The people around retreated in horror. Some sighed. The young man was dead. Some sneered. He deserved it. Who asked him to be so arrogant? How dare he fight against the people in the depths of the deity ground? Die, you ant. The old servant smiled disdainfully. He did not take the young man seriously at all. A terrifying light burst out from Lin Xian's eyes. The immortal chi seed appeared in his left eye. In the next moment, he raised his hand and slashed forward with his fingers like a sword. The true water sword technique turned into a water dragon. This sword technique used softness to overcome hardness. The power of water neutralized the power of lightning. Furthermore, the water dragon split into 8 phantoms. They covered the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward Chu Feng in an instant. All the lightning in the sky was extinguished. A rumbling sound was heard, enveloping the entire world. Everyone was so dazzled that they could not open their eyes. That brat should have been killed by this palm. He definitely would not survive. However, when they opened their eyes, they saw Lin Xian standing there unscathed. How was that possible? The young prodigies were all dumbfounded. Fei, Jiuxiao, Jiuman, and the others looked as if they had seen a ghost. You're not dead? The old servant also frowned deeply. How was that possible? That was only a quadruple crown champion. How could he block his attack? Interesting. No wonder you dare to challenge me. Although I don't know what trump cards you have, you've successfully angered me. Next, I'll send you on your way. Immortal technique. Primordial thunder, immortal's claw. The old servant formed a seal with his palms, and the lightning claw appeared behind him again. It traveled across time and space and slapped forward again. Lin Xian also shouted coldly. Immortal technique, unparalleled blazing sun. This time, boundless flames formed on his body. At the same time, a blazing sun appeared in the sky. It turned into a sun palace and descended from the sky. It was like an immortal palace that broke through the clouds and the 9 heavens. It pressed down fiercely. Damn it, what's that? When the old servant felt this power, he was so frightened that he roared in fear. Block it? He used the primordial thunder immortal's claw to block it. However, in an instant, the immemorial claw shattered. The speed at which the flame immortal palace descended was simply too terrifying, completely enveloping it. Boom, boom. A terrifying voice rang out, causing everyone's scalp to go numb and their hearts to tremble. Was this an immortal spell? Why was it so terrifying? Was this kid a quasi-emperor? None of them knew. Kaiser blood, Quasi-Emperor Mandela, and the others held their breaths and looked ahead carefully. They were looking forward to it, wondering if Lin Xian would be able to defeat his opponent. The clouds in front scattered, and a miserable cry sounded. The flame-like immortal palace suppressed the old servant. The old servant was in an incomparably miserable state. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in cracks. Blood splattered all over the 9 heavens. He screamed crazily. The surrounding people gasped in astonishment. Suppressed. He had actually suppressed his opponent with a single move. This was impossible. Jiuman and the others were going crazy. This old servant had previously defeated Quasi-Emperor Batian with a single palm. How terrifying was that? The other party was an extremely terrifying existence among the quasi-emperors. However, such an existence was easily suppressed by Lin Xian. What level had Lin Xian reached? 6 Crown King? They could not believe it. His aura was clearly that of a quadruple Crown King. Had he really succeeded? The blood ancestor and the others also gasped in shock. Although they had guessed it, they were still extremely shocked when they saw it with their own eyes. This young man was so terrifying that they saw hope. Damn it, who are you? Who exactly are you? The old servant roared crazily. He had actually been suppressed. He could not believe that there was such a terrifying figure at the edge of the deity ground. You talk too much nonsense. I'll ask, and you'll answer. Maybe you can live. Lin Xian walked over and stared at the old servant. What was the relationship between the Heavenly Thunder Tribe and the Heavenly Thunder Tribe? What was the Heavenly Thunder Tribe's plan? Lin Xian was more worried that the Heavenly Thunder Tribe would break the seal, so he had to get to the bottom of this. Stupid thing, don't even think about knowing these things. You're dead. 1 month later, young Master Tianji will descend, and he will make you wish you were dead. The old servant seemed to have gone crazy. Lin Xian snorted and activated his reincarnation eye to search the old servant's soul. He began to search the old servant's soul. The old servant's eyes rolled back, and he looked extremely miserable. Everyone was shocked. The other party was searching the soul of a quasi-emperor. How terrifying was the other party's soul? At this moment, Lin Xian was like a supreme god. The illusion of the 6 paths world appeared around him. The light from the corner of his eye made the scalps of the people around him tingle. Suddenly, Lin Xian's face darkened. He slapped the old servant and turned him into a bloody mist. His soul was destroyed. He was dead. Quasi-Emperor Batian was stunned. Mandela and the others were also stunned. To be honest, they did not expect Lin Xian to kill the old servant. Kaiser Blood rushed over and said, "Young master, you killed him?" Lin Xian withdrew his immortal technique, Unparalleled Blazing Sunday. Then he said, "What's the use of keeping it?" He was from the Heavenly Thunder Tribe and represented the Heavenly Thunder Tribe. So what? Lin Xian sneered. He looked at the quasi-emperors and shook his head. You don't think that you can reconcile with him, do you? He was just an ant. So what if I killed him? Why? Do you want to blame me? Lin Xian's face darkened. The quasi-emperors around him felt their scalps tingle. They shook their heads frantically. No, they did not dare. Lin Xian was too terrifying. They even thought that Lin Xian could compete with the Heavenly Thunder Tribe's young master. How would they dare to go against such a person? However, they felt bitter in their hearts. They had offended the Heavenly Thunder Tribe. They were afraid that their families would suffer. Lin Xian said, "Don't worry. I will help you get rid of the Heavenly Thunder Tribe's young master." Really? The ancestral patriarchs around him suddenly raised their heads. Their eyes lit up. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. You are from the depths of the deity ground. Let me see how strong you are. The crisis was temporarily stopped just like that. The old servant's body was turned into a bloody mist. Lin Xian kept his storage ring. "Young master, please take a seat." A group of quasi-emperors respectfully invited Lin Xian to the center of the lake. Lin Xian sat on the spirit boat and the quasi-emperors stood beside him. The other people in the villa were still dumbfounded at this moment. The scene just now was like a dream to them. Kuang Yiming, Fei Jiuxiao, and the others were even more shocked. A group of ancestral patriarchs and giants had become Lin Xian's followers? Jiu Man's body trembled. He was originally the focus of everyone's attention, but now he was overshadowed. All eyes were on Lin Xian. Lin Xian sat there casually and asked indifferently, "Kuang Yiming, where is young Master Kuang?" Quasi-Emperor, Frenzied Blade, frowned. What did his grandson do? In the crowd, Kuang Yiming was trembling in fear. He ran directly to the lake and knelt down with a plop. "Lin Gongzi, spare my life." He was so frightened that he could not speak clearly. Did he dare to challenge such a person before? He even wanted to teach him a lesson? Now he felt that he was too reckless. Chapter 56. Quasi-Emperor, Frenzied Blade, was enraged. Did his grandson offend Lin Gongzi? He took a step forward. "You don't know the difference between life and death. Do you want to die? How dare you offend Lin Gongzi?" Kuang Yiming was scared out of his wits and could only keep kowtowing. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes when he saw this scene. He took out a cup of spirit wine from his storage ring and gently swirled it before he said, "Don't worry. Since you didn't know my identity, I'll spare your life on account of your grandfather." Quasi-Emperor, Frenzied Blade, was overjoyed and thanked Lin Gongzi. He was extremely grateful. Indeed, even if Lin Xian killed his grandson, he wouldn't dare to say anything. After all, that old servant was killed in an instant despite how strong he was. That was someone from the Sky Thunder tribe. Lin Xian didn't care at all. This meant that Lin Xian wasn't afraid of any threat at all. Now that he was sparing him, he was giving him a lot of face. He said, "Why aren't you kowtowing and thanking me?" Kuang Yiming felt like he had just walked through the gates of hell. He quickly thanked Lin Gongzi for sparing his life. He stood up and retreated to the side. He heaved a sigh of relief. However, the others were nervous because there were many people who wanted to challenge Lin Xian and didn't even put Lin Xian in their eyes. Fei Jiuxiao was also trembling. He had also targeted Lin Xian, but what should he do now? He looked at his grandfather. Quasi-Emperor Flying Fish walked out and cupped his fists. "Greetings to Lin Gongzi." Obviously, he wanted to seek Lin Xian's protection. Lin Xian looked at him and said, "Flying Feather Tribe, right? I remember telling you before that I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Now you want to seek protection, kneel down and beg me." Everyone was in an uproar when they heard this. Even Quasi-Emperor Flying Fish's expression changed. "Young man, you're too much. I don't believe that without your help, our family can't get through this." He waved his sleeves and turned to leave. "Grandpa, wait for me." Fei Jiuxiao hurriedly followed. However, Kuan Yu, who was beside him, did not leave. She stood there in a daze and lowered her head deeply. The current Lin Wudi was terrifying. He was even more terrifying than when he was on Burial Star. He no longer dared to go against the other party. She even hurriedly sent the news to her family, telling them not to offend Lin Wudi. Apart from him, there were a few other quasi-emperors who also wore ugly expressions. Previously, they didn't believe in Lin Xian's strength, so they mocked and ridiculed him. Lin Xian had indeed asked for it. Now, if they wanted to beg him, they could only kneel and kowtow. As quasi-emperors, how could they be willing to lose their dignity? Therefore, all of them snorted coldly and left with dark expressions. Quasi-Emperor Mandela said, "Sir, do you want me to persuade them?" Lin Xian shook his head. "I didn't come here to protect the chosen immortal clan. I'm here for my own business. I'm here to protect you, because you've submitted to me. As for the life and death of others, it has nothing to do with me. Indeed, since those people didn't believe in Lin Xian, there was no need for Lin Xian to cooperate with them. Let's talk about the Heavenly Thunder Tribe in detail. Lin Xian asked. The few quasi-emperors at the side quickly gave an introduction, telling Xiao Chen all the information they knew. As for the others, they were still in shock. They knew that the main character today had completely become Lin Xian. Next, these people didn't leave, although some of the quasi-emperors left in anger. There were still some who went up to Lin Xian to befriend him, because this person was really too strong and too mysterious. Of course, there were also some who shook their heads. No matter how strong he was, he would definitely die if he offended the Heavenly Thunder Tribe. Therefore, they were prepared to watch the show coldly. The people behind the immortal-seeking tower also came out. How could they not know about such a big thing that had happened here? However, by the time they arrived, the old servant had already died. As for Lin Xian, they didn't dare to reprimand him. They could only go over and make a toast, then leave in a hurry. They hoped that this kid wouldn't make a move on their floor again. In the evening, these people left the 3rd floor and prepared to return to the 7th floor. They were going to hold a banquet to entertain Lin Xian. When Shui Yunru arrived, her expression was a little strange. She looked at Lin Xian and wanted to say something but didn't dare to. Lin Xian naturally noticed it too. He said whatever he wanted to say. Shui Yunru then told Chu Feng about the scene that she had heard earlier. It turned out that Shui Yunru had heard a few people talking on the 4th floor of the Ascending Heaven Tower. At that time, these people were talking about the Heavenly Water Patriarch and people from the outer universe. He only heard it for a moment, but he was still doubtful, so he said it. After hearing it, the Heavenly Water Patriarch's expression changed. Were they from the Tsangsong tribe? Shui Yunru nodded. They said that they had captured 2 people from the outer universe, but their real bodies had escaped. They only captured 1 spiritual soul and 2 physical souls. Not good. The Heavenly Water Patriarch's expression changed instantly. He was stunned. He had saved 2 people before. Those 2 people were from the same sect as Lin Xian. Moreover, they were Lin Xian's juniors. But now, he was actually taken away by someone. Lin Xian was furious. Weren't the people the Heavenly Water Patriarch had saved, Shangwan Shaoxian and Fu Hongya? These 2 people were injured by the Tsangsong tribe, and even captured 1 spiritual soul and 2 physical souls. His expression immediately darkened. A terrifying, murderous intent swept through the entire manor. The people around felt their scalps go numb. The murderous intent spread out and swept through the surroundings. The people on the lower floors could feel it too. What a terrifying, murderous intent. Who was it? Was a quasi-emperor angry? Oh, heavens, was there going to be a battle again? The people from the Ascending Heaven Tower also felt it. Their expressions changed instantly. Jiu Mo immediately rushed over. The previous incident had caught them unprepared. They definitely wouldn't allow a battle to happen now. Otherwise, where would the Ascending Heaven Tower put their face? Where were the rules? The Tsangsong tribe dared to attack the people of Shinmeng. They would pay a painful price. Lin Xian stood up and walked outside. The quasi-emperors behind him also followed. It's over. The Tsangsong tribe is in trouble. The group rushed to the 4th floor. There were 3 geniuses drinking and chatting on the 4th floor. They were from the Tsangsong tribe. They were also talking about how to torture the little aliens outside. Suddenly, the 4th floor was opened by someone. Who was it? One of the geniuses from the Tsangsong tribe shouted angrily. But in the next moment, he was sent flying by a slap. A figure surrounded by murderous intent walked over like a god of death. Who are you? The other 2 shouted angrily. How dare you attack the Tsangsong tribe? Are you tired of living? Lin Xian sent the 2 of them flying with 2 slaps. The three geniuses were powerless in his hands. "Damn it, who are you?" the three of them screamed. Lin Xian strode over. At this moment, Zhou Mo appeared. "Stop!" he shouted angrily. When she arrived, her face was filled with terror. Why was it this Lin Xian again? Lin Xian turned around and glared at him fiercely. "Get lost or die." After saying that, he ignored him. Zhou Mo was stunned. His entire body began to tremble. That glance just now seemed to have made him fall into the 18th level of hell. He didn't dare to speak again. Chapter 56-57. The three people from the Pine tribe were still roaring and asking who Lin Xian was. Lin Xian did not waste any time and searched their souls with his Rinnegan eye. The souls of the three people were shattered. Lin Xian's face was cold. Sure enough, they had captured Xiao Xian and Hongya. Then, "Just you wait. You'll suffer my wrath." He turned around and walked outside. Behind him, the three people from the Pine tribe were instantly turned into ashes. What happened to young master? Kaiser Blood and the others walked over to ask. Lin Xian's face was cold. He said, "The Pine tribe dared to attack my fellow disciples. I will make them pay." After saying that, he unfolded a pair of demon god wings and rushed out instantly. The quasi-emperors behind him were stunned. Then they hurried to follow. However, when they came out, they found that Lin Xian had disappeared. What a fast speed! Quasi-emperor Frenzied Blade was shocked. The blood race also said, "Let's go and take a look." They are also preparing to go to the Pine tribe. Lin Xian had found the location of the Pine tribe from the souls of the three geniuses of the Pine tribe. At this moment, he was flying at full speed. Demon god wings. He was so fast that he finally saw a strange scene in front of him. It was an ancient tree, an ancient pine tree. It grew on a cliff and shot into the sky, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws like a coiling dragon. There was a mysterious aura in the surroundings. The others did not know. Perhaps they were just amazed. But now Lin Xian knew that this was the place where the Pine tribe was. There was another world in the ancient tree. In the next moment, he rushed toward the ancient tree. Sure enough, the surrounding void started to spin rapidly, and space started to fold. Lin Xian snorted coldly. However, at this moment, two figures rushed out from the inside. "Who are you? How dare you barge into our family? Get out." These two people were guardians. When they saw the other party barging in, they immediately walked out. Lin Xian snorted coldly. "Those who stop me will die." He waved his hand, and a sword light swept across, turning into the only thing between heaven and earth. The bodies of the two people in front of him stiffened. Under the sword, they were split into two halves. Even in death, they could not believe that this young man's swordsmanship was so terrifying. Lin Xian continued to walk inside. He could feel the presence of an array formation. He struck out with his dragon-shaped sword chi, continuously attacking. Unstoppable power erupted. The array formation was torn open, and Lin Xian rushed in. Inside was where the Tsangsong clan was located. They raised their heads and looked at the sky. What was going on? The array was destroyed again? Who dares to attack us? Was it another chosen immortal race? He doesn't know the difference between life and death. Let him pay the price. They were preparing to use the formation to kill the enemy. However, at this moment, a black crack appeared in the sky. Not good. The formation has been broken. Who was it? How could he break the array so quickly? It was as if they were facing a great enemy. It couldn't be that several clans had joined forces to attack them, right? However, when they saw a young man walking out of the crack, they were all stunned. A single person dared to behave atrociously in their territory. He didn't know the difference between life and death. Where did he think he was? "Kid, who are you?" Lin Xian stood in the sky. He looked down, and his Rinnegan bloomed. At the same time, he snorted coldly. Xiao Xian, Hongya, where are you? Accompanied by his voice, his soul spread out in all directions. Damn it, how dare you investigate our clan? Kill him. There was an angry shout. Below, a man soared into the sky. His body kept changing and turned into a tree that reached the sky. The pine needles on the tree turned into hidden weapons that pierced through the clouds. Thousands of them shot towards Lin Xian. Die for me. Lin Xian waved his hand and used an immortal technique, unparalleled blazing Sunday. It directly turned into a flame palace that descended from the sky. It charged towards the man. Not good. Feeling the power of the flame, the people of the Tsangsong clan below roared. They wanted to stop it, but it was too late. The middle-aged man who attacked was turned into ashes by the flame palace. Blood mist drifted everywhere. Is he dead? The surrounding people were shocked. This young man was so ruthless. What a terrifying power. He killed an expert in the blink of an eye. Take him down. At this moment, these 4 experts soared into the sky from all directions. Immortal technique, forest of wood. An overwhelming forest rushed out, covering the sky and the earth, enveloping Lin Xian. The forest could trap everything. The ancient trees inside were like demons charging towards Lin Xian. Go to hell. The 4 experts laughed loudly. No one could come out alive after being enveloped by their heaven forest. Lin Xian's divine flame appeared between his eyebrows. The 9 Yang divine body shone brightly. He seemed to have turned into a sun war god as he walked forward. Wherever he passed, the heaven forest would shatter. Finally, when he walked out, the heaven forest was also split in half. The 4 people's faces were pale. How could it be? They were shocked. Lin Xian attacked again. The sword chi in his hand turned into 4 sword shadows. The Azura sword technique pierced through the foreheads of the 4 people. The 4 people's eyes were wide open. Were they killed in an instant? Damn it. The battle strength of a quasi-emperor. Below, the people of the Pine clan also had ugly expressions on their faces when they saw this scene. Who are you? Why did you come to our house and behave atrociously? At this moment, an old man walked out. He was also a quasi-emperor. You captured 2 people from the small universe. They are my fellow disciples. Release them. Lin Xian's voice was incomparably cold. 2 people were captured? The quasi-emperor below frowned, but the others' expressions changed. Someone said, they did capture 2 people from the small universe, but they were only 1 soul and 2 spirits. So that was the case. They were just 2 ants. The quasi-emperor didn't care. So what if they captured such people? What could they do? Lin Xian, who was above, was furious when he heard that. Ants? He rushed down in an instant. The demonic god seal on his right hand was activated. A large black seal was slapped forward. You're courting death. The quasi-emperor of the Pine clan was furious. For 2 ants, the other party dared to attack him. He also sneered. Heaven seal. He stretched out his hands, and they also transformed into 2 huge seals that swept out. Boom. After an intense collision, the heaven seal shattered, and the quasi-emperor was sent flying. His arms turned into a bloody mist and no longer existed. The people of the Pine clan were crazy. Even their quasi-emperor was injured. Who was this young man? Was he a demonic god? How dare you say that my fellow disciples are ants? You can't be forgiven. Lin Xian attacked again. He used his Shadowless Heavens net movement technique and drifted erratically. The demon emperor's demonic god seal was activated. The demonic god fist was extremely vast. The quasi-emperor of the Pine clan was originally furious, but after 3 punches, he was shattered. He screamed. He quickly fled. With a slap, Lin Xian slapped it to the ground. He spat out a ray of sword chi and nailed the other party in the void. The sharp sword, Qi, made it impossible for the other party to escape. Where is he? The surrounding people were stunned. Their ancestor, a top expert, was now being beaten up. For a moment, they were dumbfounded. Quasi-Emperor Pine Clan was also extremely frightened. He roared crazily. Where are those two souls? Hurry up and hand them over. Chapter 56-58. For figures walked out of the crowd. These four people were the ones who suppressed Shangguan Shaoxian and Fu Hongya previously. They could only kneel on the ground and tremble, the injured quasi-emperor said. The four of you quickly hand over the soul. The four of them almost fainted from fright. One of them braced himself and said, Ancestor, we can't hand it over. What? Are you trying to kill me? The injured quasi-emperor roared crazily. Another person said in a trembling voice, the one soul and two fragments were taken away by the patriarch. What? The patriarch? Hearing this, the injured quasi-emperor was also stunned. He didn't understand why the patriarch wanted the remnant soul. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He was completely furious. Where is the patriarch? Speak! The quasi-emperor's scalp went numb. He wanted to resist, but in the next moment, a pair of ruthless eyes shrouded his soul. He felt that his soul was being frantically taken away. No, I'll speak. At the back of the mountain, Lin Xian led him to the back of the mountain. The other members of the Tsangsong clan also hurriedly followed. At the back of the mountain, that was where the ancestral land of the Tsangsong clan was, and no one was allowed to get close. However, Lin Xian directly descended from the sky as if he had entered a place where no one could stop him. There were also some guards at the back of the mountain. They roared angrily. Who are you? How dare you trespass into our ancestral land? However, they were answered with a sword. It split them apart. It was so terrifying. The people following behind were extremely terrified. They couldn't resist at all. Is this the place? Lin Xian asked. The injured quasi-emperor could only nod. At the same time, he secretly sent a voice transmission to their patriarch. Lin Xian walked forward, performed the demon god seal, and blasted it forward. The black seal hit the cave in front of them, making an earth-shattering sound. The entire cave shook violently, and cracks appeared on the array formation. A crazy and angry voice came from inside. Who is it? How dare you behave so atrociously here? An old man walked out from inside. He was extremely angry. No one is allowed to enter this place. Don't his clansmen know that? However, when he came out, he was stunned. It was actually a young man. He stared at Lin Xian. Who are you? How dare you come here and behave atrociously? Lin Xian snorted coldly as he stepped on the injured quasi-emperor's head. With his other hand, he pointed forward and handed over the souls of my two fellow disciples. It was Little Uncle Master. A weak voice came from the cave. Lin Xian's face turned gloomy when he heard it. I will make your Tsangsong clan feel despair. With that, he stomped his foot and directly penetrated the body of the injured quasi-emperor. The body was torn apart. Patriarch Tsangsong's pupils shrank. How bold! Courting death. Someone come. Two more old ancestors walked over. They were also two great quasi-emperors. He did not expect the Tsangsong clan to be so powerful that they actually had four quasi-emperors. After they arrived, they all stared at Lin Xian. He actually dared to injure our people. How despicable. Today, he would make him wish he was dead. Clan leader Song laughed sinisterly. You're actually from the same sect as them? Fine. I'll suppress you then. He made a move forcefully. The surrounding Tsangsong clan members all sneered. 3 against 1. No matter how strong this kid was, he was no match for them. However, at this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the sky. 6 great quasi-emperors had arrived. Lin Gongzi. After they arrived, they bowed to Lin Xian. The surrounding people were stunned. What's going on? Why did 6 more quasi-emperors come? Moreover, they were on this kid's side. They were incomparably shocked. Lin Xian looked forward and said, "Today, I will make the Tsang clan have no more quasi-emperors." When these words came out, the 6 great quasi-emperors were also shocked. This was even more terrifying than destroying the Tsang clan. The patriarch of the Tsang clan roared angrily, "Kill him!" He took the lead and charged forward. "Young master, be careful. He's 6-crown king, Kaiser blood," and the others exclaimed. Lin Xian said, "No worries. I'll leave the remaining 2 to you. I'll deal with this one." An extremely terrifying light appeared in his eyes. So what if he was 6-crown king? Now that he had condensed the immortal chi seed, his strength had greatly increased. He had long wanted to find a real 6-crown king to test his strength. Now, the patriarch of the Tsang clan would be his enemy. Lin Xian struck out with the demon god seal. Demonic chi surged from his body, making him look like a peerless demon god. This strike carried an incomparably violent power. The patriarch of the Tsang clan roared, "Useless kid! I'll let you know the consequences of offending us." He shot out a sky full of hidden weapons. The pine needles fell like rain, piercing through the 9 heavens. It was enough to shake one's soul. The 2 collided with a heaven-shaking sound. Lin Xian's blood boiled from the impact. He shouted loudly, "Come on!" The patriarch of the Tsang clan was stunned. How was this possible? His opponent could actually contend against him. His opponent was a 4-crown king. Could he fight against 6-crown king? It was too inconceivable. Kaiser blood, and the others were also shocked. Why did they feel that Lin Gongzi's strength had increased? Or was it that he had been hiding his strength? They didn't know. The other 2 patriarchs of the Tsang clan wanted to help, but they were stopped by the 6 quasi-emperors. "I'm your opponent. Get lost!" The 2 patriarchs roared angrily, but the 6 quasi-emperors attacked. A great battle erupted in an instant. Lin Xian's eyes shone with a piercing cold light. 6-crown king, I hope you won't disappoint me." He used a peerless theurgy in his right hand and a shocking immortal technique in his left. Demon God Fist. Unparalleled sun splitting. The theurgy and immortal techniques attacked together. The unparalleled aura forced the patriarch of the Tsang clan to retreat continuously. The patriarch's pupils constricted. He could feel the power of the immortal technique, but what was the other power? Could it be a divine flame? You actually cultivated immortal chi and divine flame. He was completely dumbfounded. He had never seen anyone so bold. To be able to cultivate 2 powers at the same time. Damn it. He definitely couldn't let this kid live. He transformed into his true form, which was an ancient tree. It was abnormally ancient and incomparably ancient. When he waved it, it was like a divine blade that could shatter heaven and earth. It struck the immortal technique and the theurgy, releasing a shocking power. Lin Xian, on the other hand, attacked boldly. The sword of the immortal technique and the sword of the theurgy swept through the 9 heavens. The ancient tree was struck until it trembled nonstop. Cracks even appeared on its surface. True water sword, 9-yang sword, demonic song. All kinds of peerless techniques appeared one after another. The people behind watched in horror. The people of the Tsang clan were about to kneel on the ground. That was their patriarch 6-crown king, who was so arrogant. Now, he was actually beaten to the point where he couldn't fight back at all. The patriarch was sent flying. Many cracks appeared on his body, and blood dripped down. He was seriously injured. He roared at the sky, his hair disheveled. In the depths of their clan, the ground split open. A spear flew out. Immemorial spear. Die for me. The spear swept out, piercing through Lin Xian. Lin Xian roared angrily. He clasped his hands together, and an immortal technique and theurgy slashed out. An illusory figure surrounded by two types of peerless power clashed with the immemorial spear, splitting the heavens and splitting the earth. A sonorous sound rang out. Thousands of black holes appeared in the sky. The entire Tsangsong clan was also split in half. Everyone was sent flying. Even the quasi-emperors who were fighting retreated, their faces full of fear. This sword strike was capable of cleaving any one of them in half. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.